Meeting to order.
Councilmember Hobbs makes the motion stated.
Councilmember Brooks seconds.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
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 Awesome. All opposed? Okay, great. So let's do a quick roll call. So please, by word, just introduce yourself.
Councilmember Harding, present.
Councilmember Hobbs, Ward 2 present.
Councilmember Brooks, Ward 3, present.
Councilmember Mendoza, Ward 4, present.
Mayor Monica Casañas, present. Great. So now I'd like to ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. All right, so if you haven't grabbed an agenda, there are agendas over there. We'll do a review of the agenda and then we'll get started. So we have presentations this evening. We have a new code enforcement officer. We will be doing our ESOL class graduation, and we have a Cat's Life Rescue here tonight. We also have the consent agenda, which includes the approval of minutes. It has the department operations reports, the town administrator's report, the treasurer's report, public safety, code compliance, public works, none at the moment. Committee, board, commission, and task force reports, none at the moment. If there are any questions about anything in the consent agenda, please just say, hey, I have a question about whatever it is, and we'll go ahead and review it. But we won't be going through everything one by one. Then we'll have the mayor's report. Then we'll invite the council members to share their reports and concerns. We'll invite residents, both here and online, to submit any comments that they have. And actions for tonight, we have some unfinished business. So we have the ordinance 0-05-2023 for the business license amendments. And then we have the FY24 budget. And then we also have new business, which is AdTech, the 41st and Newark engineering proposal. And then just a discussion quickly about summer holiday schedule. We may call a closed session for a personnel issue. And at that point, we'll just ask everyone to leave, and it'll just be closed for the mayor, council, and staff. And then we'll adjourn. Any questions, any additions, anything that anybody would like to add? Okay, so I'd like to request a motion to approve the agenda this evening.
I move Councilmember Brooks, Ward 3, that we approve the agenda as stated.
Councilmember Harding, I second that.
Any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you. So great. Let's go ahead and start with the first item, which is the introduction of our Code Enforcement Officer, Freddy Rosales. So Mr. Rosales, if you could come up to the mic, and Chief, if you want to say anything to introduce our new Code Enforcement Officer, that would be awesome.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We'd like to welcome our new part-time code enforcement officer, Mr. Freddy Rosales. He comes to us as an experienced code enforcement officer and a bilingual code enforcement officer, so that should assist as well. I'd say he has a reputation, but he's known for being thorough and issuing a citation every now and then, but also working with the residents in attempt to resolve issues prior to issuing citations. So we'd like to welcome him, and you have anything to say?
Sure is.
Okay.
Before we get started, ¿hay alguien que necesita interpretación en español? No le dé vergüenza si lo necesita, déjeme saber. ¿Sí? Okay. So I'm just going to go ahead and interpret real quick. Entonces, este señor es el nuevo oficial del pueblo, que es el que, no sé cómo se dice code enforcement en español. ¿Cómo se dice code enforcement en español?
Cumplimiento del código municipal.
Sí. Él es un nuevo empleado del pueblo y él se va a introducir ahora.
Yes, so again, my name is Freddy Rosales. I am originally from El Salvador and I've been living here in the States for almost 15 years now. I went to high school here, right down the road and at Bladensburg High School. And I work full-time for the city of Bowie as a code officer. And yeah, I'm looking forward to working with, residents to improve the quality of our neighborhood and our town. So yeah, if you have any questions about code, the town code, and the things that we will be addressing, or if you have any concerns, any complaints, you can forward this to me. I'm sure my phone number and my email will be shared with all residents. So yes, thank you for the welcoming and en español supongo. Mi nombre es Freddy Rosales, originario de El Salvador, pero tengo casi 15 años de vivir acá en Estados Unidos. Y sí, voy a ser el nuevo oficial de cumplimiento del Código Municipal, que implica muchas cosas de las que podemos hablar más a detalle. Si gustan, estoy seguro que mi información de mi teléfono, correo, se va a compartir con todos los residentes. Así que gracias, como les decía a ellos, por la bienvenida y cualquier duda o pregunta, queja o preocupación me pueden dejar saber. All right, I guess that's it on my part. Thank you.
All right, so I just want to extend a big welcome to our new code enforcement officer. How long have we been without one? So it's been 6 months since we've been without a code enforcement officer. So we're really glad to have you. Does anyone on council have any questions or any remarks?
Councilmember Brooks, Ward 3. If residents wanted to have you come by the doors, knock on doors, or if a resident wanted to have like an open house and invite other residents to come and just kind of get to know you, is that feasible, Chief? Or
Absolutely. And we will be doing kind of a meet and greet in the near future, date not set yet. For that exact purpose, for him to meet the residents and the residents to meet Freddie if they have any questions, et cetera.
okay, perfect. Just for the record, you can come by my house and I'll invite as many neighbors as I can fit in my living room.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilmember Harding, I really don't have much questions. I just want to thank you so much for coming on board. We definitely need you here. And you will not be short of any issues or problems to be addressing. So thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, Mr. Freddie Rosales, for taking on the position here in Colmar Manor.
All right,
Sorry. Thank you. Also, you received my first email and
Yes.
that gives you some work to do, right?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to working with you, and for residents, if you have any concerns, please reach out to me and we can work together with Mr. Rosales.
all right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great, so now I'll go ahead and call actually Oscar, and I'm not sure if Bruce is around, but I'd like to call you to the mic. And if you could just briefly describe what this whole pilot program has been like and what we're doing here tonight with the students.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm Oscar Amaya. I'm the ESOL teacher here. So the ESOL classes were Monday, Wednesdays, and Saturdays. Monday, Wednesdays from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. We had approximately about 20 students that signed up for the class. And On Saturdays, it was from 1 PM to 3 PM. Is for the residents that that couldn't come on Mondays and Wednesdays. They would come on Saturdays because they were off Saturday and Sundays. So what we learned were basically ESOL level 1 curriculum. I taught them the ABCs, days of the week, months, the weather, verbs and pronouns, and also how to write sentences. We began how to write sentences in English and colors as well also, and the holidays and months as also. So I gave them a final exam and everyone had to pass with 65 and above, and they all passed with flying colors.
And before we go into giving everyone certificates, I wanted to see if any of the students wanted to come up to the mic and say anything or talk about their experience in the class. So I don't know if you want to translate that as well.
Yeah. Quiero que uno de ustedes, uno de los estudiantes vengan y si quieren hablar por su experiencia en la clase, cómo fue la clase, no tengan pena. Pati, lo pueden decir en español. Gracias.
Tengan todos ustedes muy buenas noches. Nosotros somos los estudiantes de la clase de ISO, de inglés, perdón. Quiero decirles de que estamos muy agradecidos por la oportunidad que nos han dado, porque empezamos desde cero y pues ahora sabemos un poquito más, aunque nos falta mucho, pero sí ha sido de gran ayuda lo que ustedes han proporcionado para nosotros y quiero agradecerles mucho.
So basically, she said, I just want to thank the town for hosting these classes. She said, we learned some things. Obviously, we have a lot more to learn, but we're very grateful for being able to have learned some basic English, and she just wanted to say thank you. Gracias. ¿Hay otra persona que quiere venir a decir algo o hablar sobre la experiencia? ¿No? ¿Sí? Vaya. No? Okay. 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 Gracias. All right. So I'll let you go ahead and just award the certificates unless, should I do it? Oh, I'll do it. Okay, great. I'll do it. The other certificates?
Bruce. I gave them to Bruce.
Oh, he might have put them on the table.
He's leaving them.
Go over there and do it? Okay. Why are you coming here? Ok, quiero llamar a Digna Merlos. Nos vamos a tomar una fotita. Gracias. Patricia Martínez. Gracias. I'm sorry, I should read what this says. It says certificate of completion. Thank you for completing Colmar Manor's 8-week ESOL program. You have successfully demonstrated proficient comprehension of the course. Ana Moreno. Rosaura Vasquez. Rosaura is also my neighbor. She lives directly behind me. Yvonne Sanchez. Y Henry Miranda. So I just want to say that it takes a lot of courage to go into a classroom and learn something new. And so I just want to say thank you for making the commitment and taking the time to learn a new skill, because it's not easy. So please continue. And if you have ideas or anything else that you need in order to support your growth, we're here to help. And I also want to say thank you to Oscar for jumping in this, pilot program and giving his time and using his skills to help residents of Colmar Manor. So I really appreciate you. And obviously I want to say thank you to Foundation of Greatness. So thank you so much. Entonces le quiero agradecerles a ustedes por tomar el tiempo y tener la dedicación para venir a tomar clases. Yo sé que eso no es fácil, aprender un lenguaje nuevo, no es fácil, pero ustedes están haciendo eso para aprender más. Y cualquier apoyo que necesitan, si necesitan más ayuda, si quieren más clases, aquí estamos para apoyarlos. ¿Ok? Y le quiero agradecer también a Oscar por ser el instructor y también por dar su tiempo para venir y enseñarles a ustedes. Entonces, gracias. Okay, don't forget there's cupcakes over there. Cake por allá, por favor, tome un cupcake. Okay, so next up we have a Cat's Life Rescue. So thank you for being here, and just come up to the mic and please let us know who you are and what you're doing in our town. Tome un cupcake, un cupcake.
Hi, my name is Nikki. I'm with a Cat's Life Rescue. And can you hear me? Move it up. Okay. All right. There we go. Okay. So our rescue has been in existence for about 4.5 years now, and we're located in Brentwood. And so about 3 or 4 months ago, we were approached by the town council about helping get the outdoor cat population under control in the city of Colmar Manor. And we have received gracious funding from the city of Colmar Manor. And we've already been able to put that funding into action. As of today, we've spayed and neutered 12 outdoor cats in the city. And then on Sunday, a team of volunteers actually went door to door through half of the community, and we were able to make contact with 5 different people that are feeding, and we identified 30 more cats that we need to spay and neuter. So that was Sunday was a big deal. We left flyers on all the houses we didn't make contact with, so hopefully people will also reach out So our organization obviously is not going to penalize somebody for feeding the cats, not going to have judgment over them. Our main sole goal is to get the cats spayed and neutered so that even if there may be somebody's into outdoor cats, you as their neighbor don't end up with kittens in your yard. That's our main goal. We know people like the cats because of the mice control. We know residents have issues with them, maybe defecating in their yard. So we're here for both sides. If somebody is frustrated by the cats, we want to be their support, their voice. And if people have cats that they've been scared to identify, they need to know that we're here for them. We can get them help and get things under control. So we're going to work on getting those 30 cats spayed and neutered. Then we'll focus on walking the rest of the community and identifying the second half of the community. The money that we received, we have 1 year to spend it. So because of, I guess, just the geographics of your neighborhood, I think it's possible. I've done this for 10 years and you have communities where even in Brentwood, the neighborhoods make it difficult to spay and neuter every single cat. But because you have the parkland and the busy road, I think we have these geographical borders that help contain the cats. So as long as residents are willing to speak up and say something, we can get it done. So that's why I'm so grateful to have come here tonight. And that's the message I want to spread. Even if you're not feeding, if you think maybe your neighbor is, talk to them, say, hey, look, this group, they're here to help you. They're not going to get you in trouble, because if we can get every single cat spayed and neutered, then you guys are going to have a lot less frustration and issues in your community. And I know that the compliance officer left, but if anybody needs to pass my information on to him, I'm sure that he'll be dealing with those cat issues as well. So I left, these are our flyers. We finally got them printed in English and Spanish. So I left some at the front, but if you need any more, please reach out. We're happy to provide more flyers. And if you need my contact information, you can reach out to the council members and they can provide that for you.
So yeah, I'd like to open it up to the council, but also anyone who's present to ask any questions, either in person or virtually. But let me open it up to the council first.
Thank you so much for working with our town. I just have a question. What's the estimate per cat for the TNR program?
It costs $65, and that does include a rabies and distemper vaccine, because in addition to getting them spayed, obviously we want to control the spread of diseases in the community as well. And then the other thing that might be helpful for you to know, it's hard for you to see, but on my shirt maybe, when we spay and neuter an outdoor cat, we clip the left ear flat on top. So if you see an outdoor cat without that left ear clip, that means they could procreate. Maybe there's somebody's indoor cat, but don't assume that. We have a lot of people that are like, oh, this must be somebody else's cat. If it doesn't have that ear clip, call us. Let's get that done.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
No, I just wanted to say kudos, Nikki, to you and your team. It takes a lot to do what you guys are doing, and we appreciate it.
We've got some awesome members of your own community actually that have stepped up and are going to be really instrumental in getting them done. So I'm grateful that you guys have been proactive as well, because I think sometimes it takes a mindset shift. We have many other communities that don't want us there. They just want the cats killed, removed. So the fact that you're willing to be open enough to a progressive solution says a lot about your community. So thank you.
Just have another question. So if there's a new litter of kittens, and as far as I know, if they're young, they still have a chance to be domesticated. So are you in any way, like you cannot even spay and neuter them under a certain age. So do you try to maybe place them in shelters?
That's a really good question. That's absolutely what we do. If they're under typically 3 months of age, they are socializable, they're adoptable. So we'll take them into our adoption program instead of returning them. And they don't, again, that also helps reduce the number of cats outside. And sometimes the residents want to keep a couple of them, but if they want to, we always get them spayed first. So yes, if they're under 3 months of age, instead they go the adoption route instead of back out.
Anyone else on council? Okay, so I'd like to open it up to any resident questions in person or online. Please come to the mic and state your name and the street that you live on. Thank you.
Kurt Plunky on end of 40th Avenue. So I understand if you're taking the trouble to catch the cat to spay and neuter it, I don't know, why don't we just remove it or displace it to maybe your neighborhood? I see the cats poop. I've seen a cat kill a bird. I know they control vermin, but they're native. Cats are invasive. They spread toxoplasmosis gondii. They're the carrier for its evolutionary development. Other animals don't do that. And I like animals. I just don't like animals that get priority and take over the neighborhood. Why can't we spend $65 on an animal trap and take care of the problem?
I think that your concerns are very common amongst people that don't want the cats there. And so we are sensitive to that and we agree. We would like to see less cats born outside. If we could work ourselves out of a job, we would be so happy to do so. So that is our goal. We have the same goal, less cats being born outside and existing outside. And that's what we're going to work towards, because trap kill has been around for decades and hasn't worked, unfortunately. So this is the progressive solution that actually all of the studies are showing is working. So that's our goal, less cats outside. If you're concerned about them coming into your own yard, I have amazing deterrents that I can recommend to you.
Is there anyone online that has any questions?
Okay, I'll speak to you afterwards. Yeah, absolutely. And I can share them with council too in an email. And if you guys want to post them, and we're happy to even do like educational posts, share stuff with you. And if you guys want to post that for any concerns.
Thank you so much for being here.
Yeah.
I'm so thankful for your group. The council actually didn't come out to find you. One of the residents that lives in town recommended you. So we're just really happy to have you here and grateful for the work that you're doing and excited for what we're going to be seeing. So thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Thanks.
Great. So next up, we have the consent agenda. So actually, I'll just let Greg do this section. So what needs to be done? All right. Does anyone have any questions on anything that's in here?
So on the town administrator report, there was the MCCMA. Will there be a summary of your experience once you come back after the Thursday, Friday session so we can share that with, I guess, the at-large?
Yes.
Thank you.
If you'd like one, yeah, I can give you a quick summary or any of the handout. I don't know what handouts they may be giving, but it is, it's the one time a year that people in my position or city managers can get together and learn from each other. And the state thankfully has a great depth of knowledge in that field. Not a lot of states have a lot of city managers or administrators. So we're really lucky to have that here in Maryland. So,
And that's exactly what I'd like for us to do, is to develop a repository of that knowledge so we can have it going forward. Thank you. Chief, I have a question regarding the safety report. So February, March, and April, it appears that traffic stops are our number one, suspicious auto is our number two, and 911 disconnects are our number three. What other things could we be doing? Like, are the traffic stops for speeding? What are the reasonings behind the traffic stops?
Without looking at them in detail, probably mostly stop signs. Some put stop signs first, speeding second.
Okay. How do we get residents to, I guess, obey those better, if not with first informing, then warning, and then maybe another approach?
That's about it. That's what I hate to say. Advising, it's kind of a basic, when you get to you stop for stop signs. So how much education we have to do on that, but then we do the enforcement by stopping. Most of the time it starts out with a warning and then it can progress from there. Oftentimes, with just a stop sign violation, it leads to other things, suspended license, unregistered vehicles, and sometimes an impound comes out of that. So it's, most of the time, if it's resident, run a stop sign, it's a warning. But again, other violations do come out of that.
Okay. Thank you.
So other ways that we could try to mitigate these types of things. So obviously, police chief mentioned some things within the legal perspective that can be done, but I think we're challenged with coming up with creative solutions, obviously making sure that the departments that we have in our town are functioning properly, but then we as council have the opportunity to think of other ways to do this. So for example, our town administrator has mentioned painting murals at intersections. Murals and art are a way to kind of ease and people are a little bit more wary of it when they see something on the ground to slow down. And I believe, is there data that shows that it works? Yeah, so there is data that shows that it works. So that's one way. So I encourage all of you to do some research, to attend different meetings and to find out. Like that's one of the things that one of the reasons why we go to things like MML in Ocean City and why networking and going to different things is so important. Sure, you can come back and bring reports. Nothing really helps unless you actually do the research and bring back useful solutions to our town. So that's one way that I've seen it. I've been asking, or I asked before at our work session, to have some type of a speed sign that shows what speed people are going. I see them in Cottage City. I've seen them in different towns. Council didn't want to approve that. But that's one solution that I had brought to the table. Some other things that we can do are, for example, the police towers. The police tower, when we were talking about the gas station last year, was another solution that I brought up. So I'd say, yeah, we can ask Chief Stone, but we can also do some homework ourselves and research it, try to figure it out.
Thank you. To that point, I know, Greg, you've been working with AdTech on the Green Street project, and that was one of the things that I've done some research on is when you narrow the streets, so maybe adding more green space on our streets and taking away some of the space that we do allow for vehicles, that forces people to slow down and be more cautious. So that might be something that we can include in the Green Street project.
Correct. The design plan for the Green Street that's existed has some bump outs like that go down, especially behind the shopping center. So they were very cautious when putting that together. It's very clear when you look at the design that they didn't not try to do it on the rest of Newark because of the density of parking that happens, except over near 43rd where it gets a little bit less parking. There's the engineering that's being designed right now actually has a little bit of a bump out around that intersection. The proposal tonight is actually following the traffic study. So to your point in question about other things we can do, the traffic study identified a few items that we could do, including the small roundabouts. Unfortunately, the 43rd and 40th, well, 40th has already been built and 43rd has already been designed. So it's a little past the point of doing traffic circle there, a mini traffic circle. However, the plan tonight is to look into doing that for 41st with permeable pavement, which is an additional permeable, but we'll get there in a second. Also, as we've found, Chief Stone had recommended that the speed bumps at the stop signs that we've had in town has had an impact because people slow down for speed bumps. Well, if you slow down for a speed bump at a stop sign, you actually are encouraged to stop, or you're going to, bend your rims. So we've applied in the public safety grant that we received back in January. There is money set aside for a speed bump at every intersection, or every street, I should say, coming into the town off of Bladensburg to slow traffic down as they're coming into town. And so we've discussed, it's up to us of where we put them, but we've discussed putting them at the stop signs to encourage people to stop when they get to Newark.
Thank you.
And something that I've seen in other towns that I've been impressed by is they have the stop signs that have lights that flash. So I see them in Hyattsville, and I think that that's effective. Again, I've mentioned this before. I am a roadster. I speed everywhere, but I do not speed where there's a speed bump at a stop sign, and I do not speed when I see the stop signs. And I've stopped speeding when I come to the town hall. So I'm just saying that there are solutions out there. These solutions also cost money. But if that's something that we want to look into, and if it's of concern, and if it's a priority, then I challenge us. Let's make it happen.
I'm opposing road signs in principle because they're create a sign pollution. There are countries out there, developed countries, and they don't have that many signs. We have an abundance of signs here overall. If you look at it, it's unpleasant. I believe, people should follow basic traffic laws and rules and stop at every intersections. But this is not what we have here. We should just be, we should be able to control ourselves. I don't think, flashing or anything else would be like in a special trigger that should motivate the person to stop. If there is a stop sign, it's a law, then you should stop.
I'm bringing up ideas,
Yeah.
and so you can say no to any of them that you want. I think that we are tasked with coming up with the solutions. So what's the solution?
The solution is enforce the law, educate the public again, and
So how do we educate the public?
have more information available, and not just educating by enforcing the laws. So yes, stop signs, check warnings, system of warnings. We don't have to necessarily find them, but we can warn the person.
Do we do that currently? So are you suggesting that we increase it, that we do more stops? Like what's the suggestion here? Because we're currently doing that.
Just, yeah, like I said, enforcing by warning first, yeah.
So we're doing that. So are
But
you suggesting
yes,
that we
but
increase
like
that?
additional sign and just a flashing sign, I don't think it's not a solution for me. I don't see that. And
I'm
yeah,
offering lots
and
of
the
different
reason why we
solutions
said
though.
no to that, because it's an additional expense on the projected budget that we're already at.
And I
the
get it, but
deficit.
I'm saying don't get stuck on that one sign. There are lots of different solutions to this. And so what I'm asking for is help coming up with these solutions.
So do we want to identify a leader to maybe champion this?
Not opposed.
All right, well, I'll throw my head in the ring, and I'll be willing to start setting up meetings so we can come up with ideas. Councilmember Brooks.
I would even challenge you to work with the Neighborhood Watch Committee.
Sure.
Yeah. Thank you. So we're still on the consent agenda. Any other questions?
One more on the town administrator report. So Joe's Emporium, thank you for spearheading that, Greg. How can we get more communication on the plan of additional planting of trees so we can get more people out?
Yeah, so right now, the plantings are actually going to stop for the spring and then start back up in the fall, because if they plant them, basically if they plant them any later than now, it's too hot. And so the trees tend not to survive. So they're going to focus on the invasive removal going forward. So because of the grant that we've given them, Joe's is doing a job training program. So some of the work they have to do as part of their training program, and that's what the grant was for, is to actually pay for the people to do it. However, that's not to say that they don't plan on doing volunteer events, because they don't have enough staff members to completely do that. And so they haven't identified the next volunteer event, but they have reached out to the mayor and myself regarding setting up a monthly, so maybe in conjunction with the cleanups. So if you don't want to do a trash cleanup, or if we have too many volunteers to do just that, then some people can go do kind of the weeding while others do the trash cleanup. And more than likely, especially because of where we're at and how thick the vines are over by the dueling grounds, most of the trash pickup are probably actually right there because they're finding a lot of stuff when they're removing the vegetation. And just so you know, too, the vegetation's sitting there for a reason. It's dying. We're letting it rot. So best practice is once you tear out the invasives is to let it rot on site so that it can die off, so you're not spreading it more. And so we're working on that next step of removal. I plan on making some signs to put up so that if people walking by are just thinking like we're cutting down stuff and just leaving it there and it looks bad. Yeah. Yeah, that's why. So we're going to put up some signs that mention that this is a work in progress, invasive removal type thing, just to let people know.
I have no questions for the greater good.
Anything else from the consent agenda?
At this moment. Actually, town administrator. So I do see that there's no report from Public Works. When can we expect to start receiving reports from Public Works?
I will work on that.
Say again?
I said I will work on that.
Oh, okay. ETA?
Next meeting.
All right, that works. Thank you.
So I have a question in regards, I received a phone call. The Bank of America ATM, is that still not functioning?
I believe Bank of America is still out of service. The Chase is close to being in service. The machine is there, the lights are on, but as of today, it still says out of service.
Okay, thank you. So if there are no other questions about our consent agenda, we'll just move on to the next. Oh yeah, sorry. So I'd like to request an approval of our minutes from April 11th, 2023. Oh, the whole thing, sorry. So I'd like to request a motion to approve the entire consent agenda.
Councilmember Hobbs makes a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Councilmember Brooks, 4 through second set motion.
Discussion? Okay, so all in favor to approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay, thank you. So now we'll just go on to the mayor's report and then the council members' reports, and we'll open it up to resident comments. So mayor's report. So we've been busy. There have been a lot of things that have been happening in the town. First off, I want to thank, I mentioned this at our retreat, but sorry, not our retreat, our last work session. I want to thank the town for allowing us the space to meet as the council, mayor, town administrator for the retreat that we had here. So we had a retreat and some of us actually spent the night here in sleeping tents and sleeping bags. And then the next day, which was a Saturday, we spent most of the day through a facilitated conversation about our vision for the town. So we went through kind of like what the expectations were of the council, what their expectation is of me, what our expectation is of the town administrator, what our expectation is of the staff. And then collectively, we came up with a vision for the town. I'll try to see if we can make those notes available. The facilitator then took all of the notes and everything that we did that day, and she made a report for us. And I'll make sure to see if we can make that available to everyone so you can see what the work was that we did on that day. But I just appreciated having that time, just an entire day to sit and talk and learn how to work with the mayor and council. And it's, I think, super important that we do it at least once a year, and we don't have to spend a lot of money on it. We have kind of a model of how to do it. So I'm looking forward to seeing how we can implement this moving forward. Next, we had a couple of events that took place. So we had a pop-up market this past weekend, which was really nice. So it was nice to kind of get that going again. It's the first one of the season, and we want to continue doing it as a place for people to come, visit our town, have vendors here, and offer an opportunity for anyone who's in town that has a small business that wants to sell their stuff. So I heard that one of the vendors made $400. She probably was one of the ones that, didn't, I'm assuming that other people made a lot more, but she made 400. So, so that was pretty impressive. So we'll be having one next on I think it's the 6th of June. It's the first Saturday. So sorry, the 3rd of June, we'll be having our next one. And then in July, we'll be having another one. July what? 14th? 1st? July 1st, we'll be having another pop-up market. And then seeing how it goes, we might go ahead and extend it into the fall and into the winter. But again, it's just about creatively using that space, the Larissy lot, to get people to come to our town. Also, we hosted a health fair here in our entire building. And so I want to give a huge thank you to everyone at MedStar. They came to our last meeting and talked about it. We actually had it. So they turned the outreach room on the track level into like a little medical center. And so they took people's blood, they did blood pressure checks, they did BMI index checks. And so it was great. It was really nice to have them here. We had bags of food. Thank you to Shabak, who gave us some food to give away. So we also had Casa de Maryland here. We had LEYC here. We had a couple of other nonprofits here that were giving information to people. So that's how I want to use the town hall. This is your town hall, and we want to bring people like that here to service our residents. So thank you to everyone who helped organize it. Thank you to everyone who attended. It was a really nice event. The other thing I wanted to bring up is the pedestrian bridge on the corner of Bladensburg and what is that, 37th, 30 what? 38th. So they finally replaced it. Oh, yeah, I know, right? So what? Somebody fell in? Oh, you thought somebody fell in.
Somebody was walking down Bladensburg Road, stepped in the hole and fell in. Fire department, everybody came. They was up underneath the bridge down there. They fell into what you call that little creek down there?
Is that true, Chief?
There was someone in the creek. How they got in the creek, I don't know I don't know. There was a elderly person with dementia who was a critical missing person from another part of the county, and they were found in the creek. But I don't know whether it's through the fence or through under the bridge or off the bridge. To my knowledge, did not have serious injuries. I don't know. I think falling from the bridge would have been, and considering the age, would have been a very serious injury, but I don't know how they got it. But yes, there was someone in there for sure.
Yeah, so we're very glad that they found it, that they got the safety, and we're just happy to have the pedestrian bridge because it had been just out of service for a long time. And when I've crossed Bladensburg, I used to, say a prayer because it was crazy dangerous. I approached the State Highway Association last year at MML to talk about this, but then I know Chiefs has been on top of it. Greg has been on top of it. So we've been calling, asking, and finally it got done. So hopefully it'll be open this week, if not this week, next week. So just thankful for that. The other thing, I don't think I have anything else. The other thing that I kind of wanted to bring up was if you know me, you know that I have a lot of ideas. So I have an idea. There are projects that are taking place in the town where we need resident input and feedback. We just need it. So when you walk into the vestibule of the town hall, on the wall, you see flyers. One of them is from the Neighborhood Design Center. You'll see another one from Joe's and Casey's Trees. But also just to address all the issues that we've been talking about for the past couple of months, the stray cats, the lighting, the sidewalks, the speeding. So I am going to be coming up with a plan and we are going to have a project as a community. I am taking over the gym and I am going to make a giant map of the town. And I am going to invite the entire community to come to color in their house as an artistic endeavor. But then I'm also inviting those groups to come and give us updates and solicit your feedback as to what you want to see, for example, at the Larissy lot, but then also to field any questions, but to get your ideas on what you want to see in your community. So sometimes it takes something as crazy as building a life-size map to have you come in, do an activity with your family to give us feedback on what needs to be done in our town. So stay tuned for a flyer. And you are all now invited and the invitation will continue over the summer. This is what I'd like to do. I'd like to invite everyone to come in and give their feedback and their ideas and bring up their issues. And we'll do it artistically. It's an entire family event to come and share with us. So if you have any questions, let me know. I've engaged a student from Seton High School who's an artist who will also be helping with this. Amelia from our rec committee is helping me with this crazy idea, and I think we're gonna have a lot of fun, but it's also going to be something that'll help us. And we'll have, moving pieces, we'll have like trees, we'll have little cats, we'll have light posts, we'll have cars. Hey, I'll make some speed bumps. And we'll do this as a way as a visioning project to see how we want our community transformed. And that's it for me in regards to, oh yes, the other thing is, please don't forget, there are a couple events coming up. We have the Mother's Day event on Friday. So please come on Friday. There will be food, there will be music, there might even be flowers. So please come for the Mother's Day event on Friday, the 12th of May at 7 p.m. here at the town hall. And then also on Monday is my birthday. And so I am renting an ice cream truck and I'd like to give all the kids and anyone who lives in the area an ice cream cone on me. I can only afford 50. So first 50 people to arrive get a free ice cream cone on me. And I just want to thank you for this past year of being here and being of service. It's an honor. It's the honor of a lifetime. And I just continue, I'm looking to continue to do good work, and your feedback is always super important to me. We might not get along, we might not see eye to eye, but I will listen. So thank you. And what? Oh, the time and location for the ice cream give back is Monday, May 15th at the Newton Park, which is on 43rd and Monroe. Sorry, 43rd, it's Monroe Park. Monroe Park on 43rd and Monroe at 5 p.m. So please come out. And I think that's it for me in regards to my mayor's report. So I'll open it up to the council. Oh, question. Can you come up to the mic?
I think everyone knows who I am. Mr. Williams, 37th Avenue. Just got a couple of comments. Thank you, Chief. Things is working out pretty well. Good job. I wasn't here did y'all discuss the lighting? I know I got here a little late.
So can you save your comments for when we open it up to resident comments? Unless you had a question about
Oh,
anything I just
no,
said.
no, no,
No?
go ahead.
Okay,
Okay, go
okay.
ahead.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I thought you were gonna ask me about something I said. Okay, so sorry, go ahead. Let me open it up to council for their reports.
Good evening, everyone. Councilmember Harding. Not much to report on. Recently had an issue with a resident in Ward 1 with the Bates Trash Truck Company, but this was a much more severe issue than just missing trash. She had an altercation with one of the employees, the driver exactly. So my reason of reporting this is to say to the residents, please report to our police department when you feel threatened. The resident called me and I was able to get in contact with Mr. Wells because Chief wasn't in at the time. But this is another situation where we don't get to document an incident that's happening. That makes it easier for us to follow up on. So I'm hopeful that within contacting back or getting back to her, she'll be able to contact chief and we'll make it more of a formal report. But yes, when it comes to issues that you feel threatened or feel endangered, because she said she felt afraid. The person got out the truck, yelled, berated, threw a trash can. And yeah, these are incidents where you have to call 911. Beyond that, I'm really just thankful for the mayor and council that I'm working with, reiterating the retreat that we had. I was able to learn so much about my mayor and council within that. I'm looking forward to finishing up the bit of this term with the knowledge that we now have to be able to create things that we want to do. And we have a clearer vision as a group. And lastly, as you just heard the mayor, I mean, just think on how big she's envisioning the town. I've never heard for the entire time of me living here, a life-size model of our community for us to add things that we want to see inside of it. So I just want you all to stay in tune. There's great things happening in Colmar Manor, and I'm just happy to be here to see it all.
Councilmember Harding, just an update on the altercation. Mr. Wells did come over and tell us over the other side. So not necessarily from the police side of things, but we did contact Bates, both because they have missed for a third week in a row, Monroe Street, which is becoming very habitual on their part, but also about the altercation. And we're scheduling a meeting with the ownership and management over the issue.
Thank you for that.
Do you have a question about this? So on that Bates item, how often do we meet with Bates to stay in front of them and build that relation?
If you mean face-to-face, probably not often enough or at all. If you mean sending a weekly email to tell them that they've missed trash on the street, then we meet with them a lot. So yeah, it's a very habitual problem that they have. Sometimes it's issues where they have a truck that breaks down. That happened a few weeks ago, and there was a large section of town. Usually when it's widespread like that, there's just a malfunction, there's something, and they will come back by the next day. I think in that incident, they came back like 7 or 8 o'clock at night and cleaned up the rest of it. But I do know there's a couple sections that have been habitually missed just over and over. Same residents, don't know how they're missing the street. So starting next week, we're going to have Public Works follow them and try to catch up. The other issue that we're having with them, and they've been notified, is that they are either not trying hard enough to get the trash in the truck, if it's a half pour, or if it's a just very loose and the truck's already full, they're not using the compactor enough, something. But our Public Works is on Mondays going around cleaning up, and on Fridays cleaning up garbage and the recycling off the street. So after pickups, when you see litter all over the place, it's usually coming from the garbage trucks, which is also encouraging residents to please bag. You can't bag the recycling, but please try to keep your garbage bagged up, because when they dump it, if they're not compacting it, then it's getting all over the place.
So if a resident or maybe a council member wanted to have maybe monthly meetings with Bates to develop a relationship ongoing and catch them doing good things, because I find even with kids, right, if you go to them always when there's something bad, then you're like, oh, you're the mean parent. However, if you go to them when there's good and bad, it's a little bit of a more balance. So what would a council member need to do to set that up?
I mean, we can give you the contact information. You're more than welcome to contact them at any time for that reason. Personally, I don't know how much it's going to help, to be honest, but this altercation is rare, to be honest. Like usually they're very nice and friendly, and if you catch them, they miss something, they didn't see it because it's behind a car, they'll apologize and come out. Like we do hear good stories from that sense, but at the same time, they're constantly missing streets in certain homes and dropping stuff all over the ground. And
yeah, they have a route supervisor that comes around as well. It's not just the truck. So they do have a supervisor that follows around behind them. I believe it's every week. And Mike has that person's contact number. So if there's any time you want to get together with Mike to have a conversation with the supervisor, they're readily available. Talking to Mr. Bates would be a little harder, but the route supervisor has been here many times in the past when we've had issues and have brought them in and encourages us to reach out to them. So I would refer you to Mike to get his number, have Mike contact him if that's something you would like to have a meeting with.
Yeah, that'd be perfect. Thank you.
So I'd say before you do that, Keith, I've been trying to meet with them. And I haven't been successful, but we're trying to set up a meeting. So before you meet with them, maybe we do a joint meeting, or I meet with them first. You're welcome to join me when I meet them. And I think we need to have them come to one of our town meetings. So communicate with me first, so that I can do that first intro, and then we'll see what the plan is moving forward.
With the supervisor or with,
I'd say with both.
okay.
Yeah, just so you know, we've been trying for months to get a meeting with management and have been passed around, and then it just forgotten about from their end. And then we ask for it again. And then I'm told that the person we talk to for when we give issues that we have in town, that's not the person that would schedule. And then randomly one day, Mr. Bates called me, which I was thankful for, but also told him like we were trying. He was like, "So what's this call for?" I'm like, "Well, we're trying to schedule a meeting with you. The mayor's not here today." Like this was supposed to be a sit down meeting at your office, our office, something like that. And he goes, "Oh, I have to have so-and-so get in touch with you because I don't do my schedule." And then he never followed up with that. And so that was part of the request after the altercation. The missed garbage, trash on the streets was also, can we please finally have this meeting with management and the administration?
There's a lot going on. Thank you.
Just to add to that, I think there were the council who were here like prior. I think they were very responsive, and they used to come here like every year at least. So not sure why and what's happening right now, but maybe it was fall and they would come, and we had residents, we'd had council questions, and they answered our questions. It seems like they maybe do things like when we address issues with them, they try to correct them, but then kind of default to their old practices, so these issues like have come up a lot. Like it's always an old issue. It's always the same stuff, it seems like,
Yeah, I'm not gonna say that it's all bad. I mean, I shared this story in the office. There are times where when they used to come at like 5 a.m. down my street, I would hear them and I'd still be in bed, and I'd literally jump out of bed, run down, go out into my driveway in my pajamas, and drag the trash to the curb, and they'd already be at one house down. And so I'd say, "Oh, hey, please, can you take this?" And they were always super nice and polite. And they'd always come back and say, "Yeah," and they would take it, they would dump it, they would bring it back. And it's not just once that I've done that. I've done that a couple of times. So to hear the treatment that one of the residents went through is super upsetting to me, and it has to be an abnormal situation. Maybe it's a new employee, I don't know what it is, but we need to talk to them either way, because I'm getting tired of seeing trash on the street. And the fact that we have to now have one of our guys follow them around, that's unacceptable. So I think that we're going to meet with them, and we're just going to see what's going on. And hopefully we'll be able to report back, or just invite them to the next public meeting that we have.
Council Member Hobbs, Ward 2 report. Just wanted to say thank you to the residents for allowing us to have a retreat. We did have a nice bonding, I would say, evening where we could share a little bit who we are, where we come from, and it helps for us to learn about each other. During our guided retreat session, we were able to work out a vision and mission for the town. And I'm really hopeful we'll be sharing it with you soon on our new website. And I hope Mr. Holcomb can update on us on that. How is that going? And I also wanted to say that I recently attended a workshop on April 17th that was organized by the University of Maryland. It's within this Sustainable Maryland certification. It was a guided tour of stormwater retrofit of the intersection 40th Avenue and Newton Street, where we have permeable pavement. And other towns were invited, and our project was used as a model to show how permeable pavement system works and how it works for the town, and the benefits of having it, how it drains stormwater, and how easy it is to, if necessary, if there's any issues underlying, if there are any pipes or waters that if they need to dig in deeper into the dirt, how easy it is to remove those blocks. And I just wanted to say that it made me proud to be in Colmar Manor, to have other towns to come visit us. And I feel like we're also now Mayor's vision and all the events and ideas that she has for us. It's like we are co-creating a Colmar Manor brand, right? So I would like to see more, yes, like more exhibits of the kinds that people would come and watch or learn from us as well. So that was, yes, a great feeling. And also just maybe coming back to the town, I'm really happy to have a town, as a code enforcement officer now. I think now well, hopefully we can address all the issues that have been piling up in the past, how many months we said? Was it 6 or a year? Like 6 months, yes. I just, would like for people to remind them to do some spring cleaning, to improve your facade, to do some painting, just so it's visually pleasant. I really appreciate our police chief addressing the issue with cats that were sheltered. Like it is visually pleasant now to look at that house, not having them in the front porch. I hope they, the issue is resolved, I hope in a humane way, and maybe they're in the back, or maybe now they're trade neutered and released. I hope these cats are not just, there's maybe still in the community, but at least it's visually, it's a pleasant, it's a clean look of that house. And that's what I would like for us to have for all the residences, to do just a bit of cleaning, and remind that we used to have a book, right? It was like town rules. I believe we used to have that book. Do you remember what it was called? But anyways, that addressed that's for the town appearance, you should be cutting your grass, and that's now the grass is growing. Now we are in full spring, and just remind residents to take care of the yards of their households, whether they rent or not. It's just nice to be coming to a nice looking home. That's, I think, it from my end. Thank you.
Ward 3, Councilmember Brooks. I wanted to give a shout out or kudos to Mr. Williams off of New York for caught him doing something good, caught him cleaning up the streets this past weekend. So the more residents that take pride in the community that they live in, the better off our neighbor will be. So definitely appreciate that. Also wanted to thank town administrators. So there was a resident that received some letter regarding the development at 43rd in New York, and he was very quick to provide design work as to what the letter pertained. And then I also wanted to thank the residents in Ward 3 for opening up their houses to me. The last week or so, I've been going to different residents, knocking on their doors, and they've been letting me in their house, asking things about the budget and things that we can improve. Everything from having street cleaning more regularly, improving the cracks in the sidewalk, fixing the fence at Monroe Park for the kids, and also having a consistent trash effectiveness with Mr. Bates and other things. So thank you for all those residents who were willing to open up their doors, have an honest conversation with me about things that we can do. I do want to do a reminder that we do have a noise ordinance, usually 9 p.m. on weekdays, 11 p.m. on the Fridays and the weekends. Let's just be good neighbors and follow that ordinance as much as possible. And then lastly, there is a safety issue with fires. So just want to remind residents that open fires should not be less than 30 feet from any building or structure with a clear space of 10 feet in diameter around that open flame for ignitable materials. So let's all do our part to make sure that we have a safe community. That is all.
Good evening, everyone. Ward 4, Councilmember Melinda Mendoza. I've always banked on this, and I love it because I'm the last one that has to go. So Mayor, Ward 1 says something, Ward 2, Ward 3. So they pretty much cover everything. And they have holistic and wonderful reports and concerns. So I'm just gonna end with Happy Mother's Day to all the mamas out there. I hope you enjoy your day. Thank you.
Thank you. And I actually forgot something from the mayor's report, sorry. So I know that Councilmember Brooks had talked about this, like having a meet and greet. So we are going to be planning a meet and greet, not just for the code enforcement officer, but also for Greg, just to give an opportunity, even though he's been with us for 7 months, 8 months, 9 months. He's been with us for 9 months. I think that he kind of just jumped in to the chaos. But it's been a blessing to have him. And so now we also have a community health worker. So thank you to Dr. Betty from a Holistic Life program in Colmar Manor. Dr. Betty she asked me, she's like, what do you guys need? And I said, we need someone that can connect people to resources. We need someone that'll help people, get back on track with their health. And she said, well, you got it then. And so free of charge, we have a community health worker that's here 9 to 5 at the town hall. So if you have not met her yet, she's a wonderful woman. Her name is Dolores. She's not bilingual. I'm looking to see if I can get someone that'll help her. But what she is planning on doing is collecting all of these resources that are available to anyone who lives in Prince George's County, with a focus on Colmar Manor, to connect people to any health-related resource, to mental health. If you need help with rent or you need mortgage assistance, anything, just come and ask Dolores. She'll also be creating a survey. And through this survey, we're going to be asking people for certain information, and it'll help us kind of figure out what is it that our town needs. So please make sure to come and meet Dolores and learn more about what she's doing in the town. And that's it for me on that was the thing that I forgot in my town report. But keep an eye out for that that meet and greet that we'll be having. So now I'd like to open it up to resident comments. So Mr. Williams, please come up. And anyone who would like to talk, just come up, name, street you live on, same thing virtually, just raise your hand.
All right, once again, thank you, Chief, for all you do. There is a safety issue when you get to Bladensburg Road and 38th. The planters right here on your right-hand side, the bushes just sticks out so far that you can't see the traffic coming down Bladensburg Road, and them people, they come down there pretty fast. So that's one. Number two, compare foods. I don't know what we can do about them. There's not a time I have not went in that store and someone's complaining about being overcharged. I go in the store, there's a sign that says bread, $2.98. I get up to the register. The guy tells me 489. I'm like, wait a minute, the sign says this. It goes back and forth. They barely have anybody going in the store now. They are tremendously overpriced. I remember when the guy from Compare Foods came here and met with everybody, all the residents, telling us how great it's going to be, I went there and got a 12-ounce. I looked at a 12-ounce Sprite. They wanted $1.79 for it. I walked right to the liquor store and got it for $1. Their prices is ridiculous. They really are. And a lot of residents said something. I don't know if there's anything we can do about it, but somebody look into that, because when he got here the first time, he told us, oh, we're going to be just like shoppers, or prices are going, I understand inflation and all of that, but gouging is something totally different. Thank you, Greg, for responding to the electrical contractor that I put you in touch with. I don't know if y'all had a chance to meet on that or discuss that yet about the lighting.
So I sent you an email. I don't know if you saw that, giving you an update on where we were at with that.
Okay.
We did discuss, we had another proposal from a different company, slightly different concept, but we had that discussion last week at the work session. But I explained in the email that this is a long process.
Yeah.
It won't be short, and because we'll have to get grant funding. There's not money in the budget projected for next year to go forward with this as of right now. So, I mean, even the quote that I received was, I think, $119,000 to replace the lights. That would still give ownership to Pepco. And so we would still not necessarily own the lights, which is what Pepco's doing. So there's two different programs that you can do with them. You can actually buy the lights, replace them, and still maintain ownership with Pepco. Or we can buy the actual physical connectors and connections and replace the lights, and then the town owns the lights going forward. And so it's a maintenance issue of who controls what, but in the end, because of the cost associated, we'll have to do a sealed bid per town ordinance. And so we would have to put this out for an RFP and bid anyway. But I explained it.
You said you sent me an email?
Yeah.
I'll check your email address, because
Yeah,
I
if
never
not,
received one.
I'll look
But-
and see if I can find it and print it out for you.
Yeah. All right. Oh, the humongous tree that's down on the next corner down. What's that? Monroe and what? 30 Monroe. Was it last week? The one in the back, limbs fell down on top of somebody's car. There was 2 cars parked back there where the trailer is. I look out, there's 2 big branches laying on 2 cars back there. That big one on the side that Mr. Fiki was talking about the last time. I don't know if there's anything we can do to maybe trim it back. I mean, I know it's costs a lot of money to cut it down, but just get the limbs trimmed back or something before.
There's potential to do that. I did have an urban forester look at it and give us recommendation, because there was a concern about it falling on the house.
Yeah.
And the recommendation was not to cut the tree down, that it is a completely healthy tree. And that if anything, it's actually holding up the hill. As she pointed out, she said, that thing is actually holding up that hill. If we got rid of that tree, they actually may have an erosion issue on the side of the hill going into the
Okay,
street.
so there's no possibilities of.
Not to cut it down directly, but trimming could be a possibility.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, or wind coming through, there's no possibility of wind blowing it over.
She said no. She thought it was a very healthy,
Long as,
tree.
yeah,
Yes.
because if it falls, it's gonna hit my house too. as big
Yeah,
as it
no,
is.
she-
So that's why I'm concerned. All right. Other than that, think I'm good. Thank you.
So to your first point on the safety issue with Bladensburg and 38th, the bushes obstructing the view, is that something that we'll, one, does Mr. Williams need to submit a incident ticket first or put a formal request in so we can track it?
No, so he has it on the record.
Okay.
I think where you're going with that is the invasive species removal with Joe's will probably clean up that issue.
So was
Yeah.
that the same thing where you said?
You're,
when
you're saying by
coming
the pedestrian bridge there, right?
The pedestrian bridge,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the project that Joe's Movement Emporium's doing with the invasive removal,
Okay.
our hope is that by the end of summer, you'll be able to see the dueling ground
Mhm.
from the roadway,
Mhm.
which should eliminate a lot of that brush in that area.
Okay, that's
Um,
on
Because there was a tree
shopping
that-
center side, right?
No, not on the, oh, you're talking about the shopping.
I'm
center
talking
side.
about the shopping center
I thought you were
side.
talking about the other
You
side.
can't see the traffic coming this way of
Exactly.
Bladensburg Road.
Got it.
I
see
know
what
when
you're
they,
saying.
they just did the bridge the other day at 7 o'clock in the morning and blocked Bladensburg Road off.
Yeah.
Which was a nightmare.
That may
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
We may have to talk to the shopping center about trimming up the trees because I think it's their
Okay.
responsibility, but yeah.
All right, but I thought that was,
Sorry. Good
where-
clarification.
where the
though, 'cause
town
I thought you were
planted
talking
all
other
the,
side. Yeah,
that tree, what's that?
it's a rain garden. I don't.
Yeah, the rain garden, yeah.
I think it's still on private property though, if I remember correctly. Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Kurt again on 40th Avenue. Thanks, Mrs. Hobbs, for speaking to a vision you guys had. And I see a lot of disconnected things happening. And I think if the council and the mayor would prioritize a theme, a vision that harmonizes with where we live, by a cemetery, by a large park, on a battlefield. There's a lot of nature around us. And I see the lighting projects, going off one direction, the red speed camera, or maybe you can also have a noise enforcement on the road, make people drive, have less speed. The flashing, stop sign on the corner. I don't know. Then we have the cat. So I think if there's some common vision that's not necessarily democratic, but you can sell it to the residents on your map downstairs, and it would incorporate and fold in the proposed path by the Dueling Creek. And so a lot of pieces are happening that just don't talk to each other, and it's very disconnected. A vision with a good leadership to push it, to articulate it to the residents, just to basically say, this is our unique vision. We don't necessarily want to attract people to as a show and tell. This is how we're going to address the arts, the locality, future problems with climate change, with storms. There's a catastrophe that's waiting to happen in the near future. And I just hope we're resilient with technology, with people engaging in the community garden. I'd like to see an outreach on that, more forceful. So there's just a lot of education and a lot of promulgating a good vision that will work for everyone. But it does take leadership.
Oh, go ahead.
During the work set, thank you so much for your comments, Mr. Plunke. During the work session, we were distributing those materials for the vision that we worked out together. Are they by chance available? Or we can maybe share them? Any other copies?
Yeah, so those are the retreat notes that I mentioned before that
Yes.
we'll try to make available either on. are
Yeah,
available?
they were made publicly available for the work session.
Yes, I
But
remember.
yes, it does go down after,
Mhm.
but we can add them to the website
Yeah.
and advertise what that vision is.
Thank you. Yes. So yes, we did talk about, the importance, the history of our town as well in our vision. Okay. Thank you. Um, these are the notes. Yeah, it would be great. Like I can just voice it out, but also we talked about this shared vision is the thriving and active community, accountable governance, effective and efficient operations, sustainable community, which includes green spaces and trees, inclusive and caring neighbors, full service community agent in place. And each of these bullets does like, these are like, we tried to make them concise, but we did have history and historic location of our town included as well. So we do have, again, it's a big document they'll be sharing with you. Right, Mr. Holcomb? Thank you.
Yeah, if I could piggyback, Councilmember Hobbs, I really appreciate you addressing the issues and the concerns that you've had. I personally feel like the things that we are addressing currently are reoccurring issues from the past. We haven't even gotten to our vision yet. I've been in council for almost 3 years and I've barely touched the vision that I've had. So I really appreciate you addressing that and having it on record, because this is a thing that residents may also feel. We may be scattered all over the place, but we're all over the place because it's been all over the place. So allow us to get that time to really form the vision, to give it to you all, because at the moment, we're still forming it. We may have had our retreat, but it requires us to really do research to bring it to you all. So I appreciate you bringing that forth.
Any other comments? I'm looking at you, Ms. Williams. You don't have any comments? Okay. Wait, you said we have someone online? Oh, do we have anyone online? Okay, the mic is yours.
You're going to be shocked. No, I just, I just wanted to say thank you to Chief for, I'm not the bad guy. Yeah, no, I wanted to thank you for, from when we were at the Neighborhood Watch and you following up with the trucking situation, the commercial truck. So that's been definitely reconciled, and I'm truly appreciative of that. Excuse me, I just wanted to also add that I know that there has been some concern, not just from myself, but that there's some of the folks are coming back. Okay. They are on the back of that the convenience store. They gather there every day and they do leave trash. They'll kind of make their way to the front and sit on those yellow brick areas. But then just before you guys come, that's when they'll get up and leave. I don't know, it's like they just got that thing timed down just so, but they do tend to meander to different locations. But, I'm being hopeful because the weather is getting warmer, that, that they'll be checked out at the back of that store. They're definitely gathering up. They're kind of like gearing up again and again. So I'm in hopes that will, that will still be watched carefully so that we can keep that from happening again at the car wash area, because that's a major concern. Mayor, you had mentioned earlier about what was supposed to have been taking place in the parking lot. We in that outlet area with the having some cameras there, security there. Nothing has happened. And so I know it's been, it'll be approaching a year again soon. So I don't know if we're going to handle this through the community. I mean, through the, help me please.
The green team?
Yes, yes.
So
The
I think I
green
had
team.
mentioned this before. So we went to, probably like a month ago. We went to NEI Michaels. We went to their office We met with Mr. Michaels, we met with Mr. Brownlee, we met with Andy Stern. It was not a good meeting and they lied to us. They said that they were going to install cameras.
Right.
They did not.
No.
They are not going to. So at this point, I am not happy with them. And I tried being very diplomatic, being very gracious, giving them time. I'm not going to be so nice moving forward. I am very angry. I'm pissed off. So yes, we will be talking about this in the green team because there are some things that we need to do and we need to get the word out. And by saying we need to get the word out, it means I'm going to get the press involved. It means that we need to have people here that will document the story of what's happening in our community. However, Greg has also been meeting with Councilmember Ivy and her staff. And so I'd say we should all be very hopeful. More to come, but definitely, please, if you can attend the Green Team meeting, attend it. But yeah, the fight is on.
Thank you.
Chief, if I could ask a question in regard to the truck issue that was reconciled. Going forward, well, let me ask this. How are the steps to reconciling this situation?
I believe she's referring to the trailer. Yeah, yes. At the last council meeting, I said that it was legal for trailers to be parked on the roadway, and that is correct, up to 16 feet. And the trailer in question exceeded the 16-foot limit and contacted the owner and took the little prodding, but it's gone.
Yeah, well, that's all.
Regarding that item, we've done a lot of resolutions and ordinance updates. When will we have an updated copy of that on the website for residents?
I mean, we're not gonna have a copy of, an updated copy of the
Yeah.
parking ordinance because we need to discuss it.
Well, he's referring to the one that was, so the current code on the website does not actually have the current parking code in it because of all the amendments that were made, and it was kind of a jumbled mess. We think we have. Yeah, we're trying to triple check that what was decided is actually what's showing up. And that's what the hesitation and kind of the slowness is. But hopefully soon. And then also, once we have that, we have to send it over to general code to make sure that it's part of the codification too. And then have them review it to see if it's in conflict with anything. In the meantime, you all are probably going to have conversations about that while all that's happening. And could easily change all of that. So the wheels of government are always turning. It's a beautiful thing, but hopefully soon. I can't really, it's.
Could feel like an ETA, maybe a month?
Quite involved as to how that parking ordinance came to be. But I think before the next work session, we should have the correct, what was approved at the November 2020 council meeting. That's the most updated ordinance.
Okay, because I say it in the vein of, if we are to expect residents to abide by ordinances, we should provide them with the education of what is the existing ordinance within a timely manner. But thank you.
No, that's not, debatable. I agree. However, we need to sit down, and I think I mentioned this already at the previous work session. We need to sit down and talk about the parking ordinance.
So I think we're missing each other. I'm talking about ordinances that have been passed already.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to talk about them because they're a jumbled mess.
Yes, both points. And then the other side of it too is, and this council has been very great, and I wasn't here prior to this council, but a variety of motions from the floor with nothing written down and overlapping each other's motions is what caused a jumbled mess. So it's very confusing because there were motions that were made and then a motion that went over the other motion, but only portions of it were cut out. And then they would discuss so-and-so's granddaughter coming back from college, and then something else got added in, and then someone brought up a trailer. And so putting all that together and notes didn't match. So you have to listen to the council meetings over again, look at the ordinance that was on the books, see what was changed and not changed. That's why. So, and then it just kind of got lost in the woodwork a little bit, but we'll, like you said, by next work session, we should have it. That's what Chief said. So I'm sticking to his.
So in the vein of being a part of the solution, I will throw my hat in the ring to help if you need help doing that. So, thank you.
Okay, if there are no other resident comments, the next item on the agenda, the action section, is unfinished business ordinance 0-05-2023 business license amendments.
Yes, so at the top right-hand corner, I found out how to add page numbers to PDFs in a complete document. I'm proud of myself for that. So in the top right-hand corner, page number 15 is where this starts. Mr. Baden added a couple very small changes. I added one as well. I've highlighted those in yellow. A lot of it was more grammatical, and then attempting to address a concern that Councilmember Hobbs had. So obviously, if there's a line through it, if it's highlighted in yellow with a little line through it on page 16, the word just needed to be moved over. If it doesn't have a line through it and it's yellow, that means it was added. On page 17, the original did not state, it said all businesses, trades, professions, was $250 a year, added the construction and contractors excluded on the next line. Councilwoman Hobbs had stated that was a little confusing, so I wanted to make sure that we added that construction trades as part of section 1. Page 20, it appears that there was, because some of this was copied over from other ordinances, there was a heading that was in there, penalty for a late fee period. Removing that does not need to be there. At the bottom of the page 20, removing after a public hearing. Mostly the council, it is a public hearing when a council holds that. So it's not an additional public hearing on top of the hearing that you would be having a meeting to discuss it anyway. Page 21, removing for, adding the word per. 22, there was an additional section B that needed to be removed because there was nothing there. And removing ice cream, vegetables, etc. Some outdated language. And then adding and approval by the town of Colmar Manor. And those were the only changes that were made from the other edition. In the note that I sent to council, there was a request to add the license fee for cannabis businesses to try to mimic the liquor license of 20% of the license fee that they pay to the county. We did not have, since that was only last week that we discussed that, there was not enough time to research and have legal counsel look over that to determine whether or not we could do that. So this would set a base, at least for the business ordinance, to get it cleaned up. We can immediately look into the business licensing for the cannabis and do that separate, and there's not a problem with that. Because they don't, well, I was gonna say, it's still a little while. Is it June 30th when the cannabis law licensing takes effect? July. So we still have until July until it's actually legal for someone to even apply for that license anyways. Do you need them to accept the changes? Yes. we do need that.
Councilmember Hobbs makes a motion um, to
Adopt ordinance.
to approve the changes to the ordinance 005-2023 business license amendments.
Councilmember Brooks, Ward 3, seconds that motion.
Discussion?
So is that to approve the ordinance or just the changes? 'Cause we need
To approve the changes
and adopt the ordinance.
and adopt. Okay, and adopt. the ordinance.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay. The next item is the FY '24 budget. Just FYI, I don't know if the rest of the council saw Councilmember Hobbs at 6:30 today sent over some notes on the budget. Have you all had a chance to review those? So what are we discussing in regards to the FY '24 budget?
So we're working towards adopting the budget at the June town meeting. We did have a very detailed discussion at the last work session. The draft of the budget that you have in front of you incorporates the changes that we discussed. And, you know, the discussion now is to continue any other changes or items that you want to see in the budget or discuss any items in the budget and work towards our public hearing, which would be on June the 6th, which would be the next scheduled town meeting, and then adoption on the 13th of June. So the public hearing is advertised for June the 6th at this point. So between tonight and June the 6th, you know, we should come up with a, you know, final budget that would be up for adoption on the 13th. So I have not seen any comments from anyone back on this. I did get a email, I think, from Councilmember Brooks that had some comments, but I did not get a chance to read those before the meeting.
Let's go over them. It's at 6:18 PM that he sent this email over. In the future, can you please send these notes sooner? 40 minutes before our town meeting doesn't give people enough time, including our treasurer, to look over these notes. So just in regards to communication, something that we're all trying to strive for, it would really help to get these sooner.
So it took a long time to document all of that, but I will try my best to expedite the process as much as I can in the future.
Great, thank you. Okay, so one question that Mr. Brooks has. If you take a look at the budget and take a look at 4103, the Daily Bazaar, which should not be titled the Daily Bazaar anymore. How can we generate more value per acre for this property?
If you look at the second draft of the budget, it's actually been revised to be titled Laracy Park Rental Income. So the first item you brought up has been addressed. You know, the second one is really up to the council as to what they want to do with the, you know, with that property, and is probably a more detailed discussion than, you know, what we have now. I mean, that's a, you know, a full concept of how that park is going to be used. You know, maybe you could have a general conversation tonight as to, you know, are there ways within the next year to raise additional funds that would affect the budget, that anyone, you know, has an idea of what those are quantified at. But I believe, you know, that park has been slated for many things with the past administration as well, and there hasn't been anything definitive over the last 3 years that is workable. So I don't think at a budget meeting is the time to go into the details on that, because I don't think anyone that I'm aware of has a answer to that question as to income wise, what does that look like?
Thank you, Mr. Beaton. Okay.
I think a better conversation would be to do it offline because most of the questions that have substance are regarding expenses and specifically town administration salaries and things of that nature.
So for the budget discussion tonight, I mean, it should be open up to the council for anything you want to discuss. So I know you've got a lot of comments here. Are there specific ones that we can address and talk about that would help move the budget forward, and we could have some good discussion on? Because you ask a lot of good questions, and some of them are just general, which I'd be glad to sit down with you and go over as well if you would like.
I want to go through some of, I want to go through all of them, actually. If we could do it quickly, that would help. So his next question is, how do we obtain grant funding to support public safety?
It's listed under the state aid for police protection line item. So that grant itself is a state grant that we receive from year to year, and it's based on specific data. It's made up of two components. It's made up of the number of sworn officers you have at June 30th of each year. It's made up of the number of residents at the last census, and then it's also based on the town's expenditure for police service as compared to all of these police agencies in the state of Maryland. So the formula is based on those three items for that specific grant. I know the chief has looked at other grants for supporting the police department. We recently got a grant for 2 license plate readers. I believe, there are any other grants you've submitted? There's some safety grants through Legit that we used.
Yeah, there's the public safety grant has some funding in it for additional kind of community policing. There's a recreational grant that I applied for that would connect into the police department. I will have to say a lot of these, I've looked at federal programs through the cops community policing programs. Most of the police funding programs I see outside of your basic ones like the state aid require hiring additional police officers and then keeping them on staff. So it's not necessarily, and most of them, especially to the state, flat out say you can, or the federal, actually even more so, you cannot supplement funding that you already have for your police department. So it has to be above and beyond. And then usually it has to be, if you're hiring someone new for the position, you have to keep them on after, which is an additional expense then.
Next question is from the red lights. Red light citations, how do we generate more revenue from this? Is it possible?
I think we're looking more at speed cameras at this point. I've expressed displeasure with the red light camera operator that we have. So, I do believe that we need to circle back and have another meeting with the current operator for the red light camera. But in addition to that, we're also looking at speed cameras, and the chief and the town administrator have been having meetings and conversations with the proposed speed camera vendor. Again, we don't have a timeline or a date when that would go into effect. It will probably come up during the fiscal year. So I would expect some type of revenue from that, but at this point, I don't know what that would be.
Next question is how, under the Chesapeake Bay Trust, how do we leverage the green team to identify more projects and request additional funding? This could assist with resilience initiatives.
I'll defer that to the town administrator.
Right now, we need the green team to create their sustainability plan for the next 3 years, the action plan. All grants associated with that through the state, through DHCD and through the Chesapeake Bay connect to that plan. This is a double-edged sword of you don't necessarily also want to create more projects, because then there's additional expenses with that and time taken away from looking for administering what we already have. So there is a large group of grants that as soon as the state's budget was passed and signed, they released just now at the end of April. One grant's due by the end of May. And I believe there's about 6 other grant programs that are all due by the end of June at the same exact time for various things related to community development, environmental things, a lot of things related to the green team, and is tied to that action plan. And currently we do not have one in place. So that's what they're hoping to have them talk about on Thursday. The mayor and I've sat down with Sal and Sadara, well, more so Sal, to discuss at least some of the general concepts that we could pull out of their listing of the Sustainable Maryland's listing of like potential topic areas, but that doesn't necessarily address the projects. And so that's where they need to work on the action plan to kind of guide that. And then you all have to then approve that plan at some point. So yes, I'm also, every grant that comes through regarding resiliency, environmental, stormwater, I'm watching all of those on a regular basis.
And by the way, thank you to Sal. He's been very active. So just having him on the green team and all the work that he's doing, we are super grateful. Otherwise, it would be a stagnant green team. He's the most active participant.
So I did
Next-
have a question on the expenses, line item 5197, interpreter services. And
Sorry, can I go back? I want to go line by line.
Do we have time to
I
do
mean-
everything, council, or should we?
We have time. So, I
Do-
mean, you sent this at 6:18. So I
So
want to,
again,
I have a question about it.
again, it
so
takes time, Mayor, to go
I-
through each line
We
item
had a
in the
week.
budget.
We had a week.
Mayor, it takes time to go through
I
each
understand that
budget
it takes time, but also we're on a deadline. So this to me, again, is just going back to communication.
Mayor,
We need,
Mayor, if you're willing to go line by line and create your own spreadsheet and do analysis to the length of degree that I have, then by all means, do it.
okay. The next question is, why has this stayed the same under police citations? So question, why has this stayed the same?
Right. I think it'd be good to take the next 4 items together because they're all related to the police and some of the violations and reports and vehicle release things that they are doing. And then I think there are 2 general questions as to what are vehicle release fees and what are flagging fees. So the chief, I believe, is going to comment on those 5 items.
Certainly. And if you could give me the questions, I don't think I received that document.
I'll forward it over. So the
All
first
right.
question was police citations, why has it stayed the same? The next question was code enforcement violations and then police reports violations. So why has it stayed the same? Parking issues, trash issues, noise issues, and etc. And then how does this generate revenue?
On the citations staying the same, those are parking violations only. They do not include stop sign violations, any moving violations. All moving violations, we don't see that revenue, but the parking citations is what we see here, and that's what paid, not necessarily what is issued. So there may be more citations issued, but about the same amount being paid. I'll see if I can get a comparison of what was issued in the past. And if currently now, if we issue a Maryland citation to a Maryland tag and they don't pay, we can flag it. So we ultimately usually get that money. If it's an out-of-state tag and they don't pay, there's not much recourse in receiving that.
Okay, yeah, so the question arose from, on 2021, we're at 5,500 in citations. And then in 2022, we're at 4,000 roughly. 2023, we're estimated at 55. So it's around that, 4,000 to 5,500 ballpark. And I was just wondering, why that?
There's more citations being issued for sure.
Okay, so they just haven't gotten to the point where either they pay them or we've gotten past warnings.
Right.
Okay.
The next question was, how does this generate revenue? What is a flagging fee?
Flagging fee is when they don't pay a parking citation, then it's a Maryland tag. It's called flagging, when you notify MVA that they will withhold their registration until the parking ticket is paid, and it's a $25 fee associated with that.
Okay. The next question is under advertising. What was this advertisement fund used for and how do we reduce this? And I think we've answered this before.
I
Go
actually
ahead.
addressed this in a council meeting to you, Councilmember Brooks, prior to you
It
coming
was for
on.
the
This is for
petition.
legal, this is legal advertising for ordinances. So even the ordinance tonight that we just passed, I have to post this now in the PG Post. So every time we do that, there's a cost associated with that.
Correct. And the reason why I was asking, for the record, in 2021, we had an advertising fee or expense of $320. 2022, we had an advertising expense of $366. In 2023, it jumped to $1,200. So I was just wanting to make sure that for the record, we had that clarified.
Okay, so under the lobbyist, how do you use grant fund? Oh, no, that's something different, sorry. That's coming down, but the next one was circuit rider manager, and I feel like we've addressed this as well, but how do we use grant funding lobbyist to acquire this position?
We have used the circuit rider program through the state in the past to get a shared circuit rider. Under that program, as it's currently written, you have to share the services with one or two other governments that are looking for that service. I had mentioned the last town meeting or last work session last week that I think we could use our lobbyists to push to get the language changed for that grant, for the use of those funds. It's a Department of Housing and Community Development grant, one of the grants that you could apply for through that agency. And, if you could get the formula or the requirements reduced so that maybe they just support a town administrator for a single municipality versus multiple ones, so that we would pick up part of the cost and the grant would pick up part instead of the grant picking up, all of the cost. So I think if we've got skin in the game, why wouldn't they want to help us out if the purpose of the circuit rider program is to provide town administrators to cities and towns that can't afford it?
Okay, the next one is, what is this? How can we reduce these direct deposit fees?
Yep, so direct deposit fees are fees charged for, paying through online services. So we do assess fees to people who want to pay for fines, pay for rental license, not rental license, for rental, hall rental fees. If they want to use PayPal, there is a additional fee associated with that on top of the fees that are for the rental. We also use that for collections in the police department for the revenues we talked about earlier. And then by using that, PayPal also charges us fees. So in the end, we try to set the fees so that they offset each other, the rep fees that we got to pay to PayPal versus the ones the residents pay for using it. So that's why the dollar value is quite low on there. In the end, I think to date, I thought we were like 16. Yeah, we're $16 to the good through April of this year. So we're doing pretty good with what we're charging. But we do still have a small amount in there, for those fees.
The next is the election and registration. How soon after the event are volunteers paid?
If you're talking about the election judges, they're paid the following week after elections are held.
Yeah, in this last special election, there was a slight delay, and that was my fault. But there wouldn't be an election, or is there an election in this fiscal year?
There's election
There
in
is.
fiscal year 24, yeah.
In 24.
Okay, next is End Time Harvest Ministries Youth Development Program. What does this include? What grants are available to offset this cost?
So there's no grants available to offset the cost. We have, supported End Time Harvest Ministries in the past to various degrees and levels, up to the council as to, how much they want to contribute to their programs. I believe at the work session last week in the grant application that was submitted for the ARPA funds, Reverend Addison laid out the uses of those funds pretty well. So these would be used for those same purposes, mainly administrative purposes, staffing in order to put on the programs that she does.
Correct. And that was one, Councilmember Harding and the mayor have mentioned multiple times, how do we get more youth engagement? How do we reach out to them? And just trying to figure out, okay, what are other things we can do to be generating more for this line item? So thank you.
Yep.
Okay, next question is IT services. What all does this include?
So it mainly includes a company called Alpha Engineering, who is our outside IT support company. They monitor our network, upkeep our network. If we have any issues, we have a helpline that we could send them emails to, and they respond promptly. If you have immediate concern, you could call them, and they're usually very responsive to that. Any recommended upgrades to our network computer system, they are our advisors for that. And if we need new computers or server, they will spec it out, and we would usually buy it through Dell at a government rate, so they don't mark it up or anything. But they will, install it and do any conversions and things that are necessary. They also keep our network computers protected with various security programs and those types of things. So the majority of it is related to that. There's also some fees that we actually just paid this week for a participant, what's called the Intergovernmental Network. It's called the INET. All the municipalities in the county are part of it. It's a countywide networking system where we're all together on the same network, where you could get a lot of different services. You could get services for code enforcement use, where you could have maps to actually look at someone's property without going on their property. You just have to have security access in order to do that. Our internet service is through that service as well, through the INET. So we only have to pay for one connection in order to get all of our employees, the council members, police officers, everyone onto the internet. So, it goes through that system versus through Comcast. So there is a fee associated with that, with the operation of the entire INET. The county foots about 90% of that bill because it's based on the number of subscribers in the county. So we're a number of residents in Colmar Manor that have cable services. We pay a small percentage. Our costs this year for the operation of the INET and the legal fees associated with the negotiations of the Comcast franchise, which was up for renewal, was $1,300. So the majority of that line item is related to the IT services. We pay $470 a month for the actual support from Alpha. So multiply that by 12, and then $1,300 for the INET. And then there's some software security programs and things that we have an annual subscription for that are included in there as well.
That was very detailed. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Next one is the interpretation services. What has been the utilization rate of this service?
That's mainly for the town council meetings that are televised, and I believe it's just not the work session, right? Or do we do just the town meeting? So it's being interpreted now in Spanish. So that is what we agreed to use it for. We don't do it for every meeting, but for the town meeting, second meeting of the month, it's services for that. And we have a new interpreter, and I don't remember what the fees are for them, but in the past, I believe it was $300 per meeting per interpreter. Is that right? Somewhere around there.
Okay, and do we have a policy on how often we'll go out for bids to change them? Or since I guess it's fairly new that we've added the interpreter, that we haven't run up to that yet?
Yeah, I mean, we did go out. Councilmember Hobbs was very instrumental in helping us do that. She helped, us filter through the proposals we received, and I think we felt that we reached out to about 12 different companies at the time, and we went with the one that offered the lowest cost, which still seemed pretty pricey, but that was what the market was. So it's been over a year now.
Mr. Payton, if I may add, you said we switched companies, right? It was a different company that is now it's pricier than the previous interpreters we've had that I helped identify.
I think the current vendor is comparable to what we were paying.
And Councilmember Hobbs, thank you very much. I advocated for that when I was a resident. And so you helped push that through, and I really appreciate it. And the residents who don't speak English also appreciate it. And I think, I'm not sure, maybe we have to look this up, but this has to do with language access. And so we always, I don't know, from a legal standpoint, if we're required to do that, we might be. But we also just want to increase access so that everyone has the information and we're able to educate everyone on everything that happens in our town. So I appreciate that. The next one, legal counsel. Have legal attend more town hall sessions to education residents?
When we have Mr. Barr as our town attorney, who was paid a retainer, so he came to all of our meetings, and that was included in his monthly retainer. So you saw him more often. You saw him every meeting, basically. With the current attorney that we just hired, January 1st, I think. He's on an hourly basis, so we only use him as needed, and then, have not invited him to any meetings. If the council, looks at the agenda and they feel that the town attorney's on, you could contact the administrator, is needed for that meeting, you contact town administrator and, express your concern for that. But we've just been using the current attorney on an as-needed basis and not having him come and sit through a meeting and pay him his hourly rate.
And we've discussed this before at previous meetings. So no, we don't have him attend every meeting because it's expensive. So if you have any questions, ask Greg to reach out or share those questions with Greg. But then also in regards to education, what do you mean? What does that mean?
So it's just education of the legal process and education of our group, because I remember Mr. Barr and Councilmember Hobbs had mentioned when she first joined, he was very instrumental in educating her on Robert's Rules of Order and how to proceed with a meeting in that aspect. So it's the full education of the legal process between the charter, the codes, ordinances, Robert's Rules of Order, everything that touches the residents and the council members and the town staff from a legal perspective.
So in our work session, in our last work session, I mentioned this and I said, after or post the retreat, we should look at ways to continue educating ourselves. So where we talk about our procedures and how we do the Robert rules and whatnot, But I also agree, and I've mentioned this before as well, there is a opportunity to educate residents on what is our town charter, what are our town ordinances, what is the role of council and mayor, what is the role of the treasurer. So I think, yes, but the lawyer isn't the one that's going to be doing this. I think we'd have, I mean, that would, if you want to, sure, but that's a lot of money. So I think we need to figure out how we can continue to educate ourselves at a more, in a more efficient and cost-effective way.
True. And what is the ETA on that? And who's leading that charge?
I am.
Okay, what's the next meeting?
So I'm going to email everyone, which I mentioned at our last work session. So
Did you
I
send
look,
out that email?
I'm going to send out an email,
Thank you. That's all.
Keith. So I look forward to your reply to my email within 24 hours.
Thank you, Mayor. That's all.
Yeah, you're welcome. And that's something that we should definitely all strive for. And we'll definitely get on track with that because I do believe that it's necessary. So the next one, what for the lobbyists, what are the metrics for this line item, and we need to hold them accountable.
We haven't used lobbyists in years until this past year. So, I think it would be up to the council to decide, what, metrics you want to use. There aren't any written established metrics, matrices. So I don't have a good answer for that.
I think the metrics for this previous year were find us money and update us on the legislative, what's happening at the legislature. So they did provide us our monthly, and actually more than monthly during session updates. And they did pursue various avenues for funding, but in actual dollar metrics, nothing came through out of that yet.
So how do we plan to change that for next year since we're including them in the budget?
Are they included for FY24?
So if you look at line item 5210, we have 18,000 in the budget. That's what took me so long to review.
Yeah, so this was left from the previous meeting we discussed.
Did you just wink at me, Keith? Did you just wink at me?
I wink a lot and I blink a lot. I mean,
No, did you just do this to me?
I blink a lot. So, thank you.
So the fiscal year 24 budget has $9,000 allocated, which is the current monthly fee times 12 months. The assumption was that you're going to continue on. Obviously, that's a discussion that could be had, based on the 6 months that we've retained. Maybe it's 7 months. I think 7 months that we retain them this year. So that would be a discussion, you all could have.
So the discussion is to decide whether we want to continue with them or not. So let's have the discussion.
I thought in the work session, town administrator said that typically lobbyists are way more expensive and mentioned that one, he was surprised with the level of feedback that they had provided on a weekly basis and suggested that we give them another year to vet out and see what happens. That was my last understanding.
Small correction on that. I did not suggest that you wait another year.
Okay, yeah.
I just stated that lobbyists in general, it takes time to build those relationships. But it would be your decision whether or not you would want to move forward with that. I did not recommend one way or the other.
And maybe I'm mistaken, but I thought the council gave a nonverbal, more of a head nod of they're willing to put that in the line item.
Yes,
Yeah.
you had suggested that. And yeah, there was a
So yeah, we're good.
consensus to move forward with it.
Okay, next item.
So we're keeping it. We're moving forward with the lobbyist.
Yes, I would assume
It's
so.
budgeted. You could always, decide at some point during the year you don't want them, but for now it's in the budget.
So Keith, you keep on bringing up metrics, especially when we talk about the lobbyists. So do you have any recommendations?
Yes, Mayor, I do have a recommendation. So based off the vision that we have, we need to use the vision, identify different buckets of funding that we want per that vision, and ask the lobbyists to help meet those and give them specific amounts for each of those buckets that correlate with our vision. Those are the metrics that we could start with.
So is that the only metric? Are you saying just having them or giving them our vision and then asking them to find funding for that?
Well, Mayor, so if we look at the budget and we look at the deficit, currently, I believe Mr. Baden had allocated funds to offset the deficit that we had. Maybe we can look at our vision and figure out what projects are currently being processed through expense items that not are covered in ARPA, and we can use those to start with.
No, but I'm asking specifically for the lobbyists. You keep on bringing up metrics. So when I think of metrics, I think of, as Greg mentioned, money that they brought in, meetings that they've set up, times that they've come to the town hall, reports that they've generated. Those to me are metrics. Do you have any additional recommendations when it comes to metrics in regards to, hold on a second,
Okay,
in
go for it.
regards to the lobbyists?
So, Mr. Baden, they provided $0 for us this year.
Correct.
So a metric would be more than $0. Thank you.
No, Keith, you're not understanding my question. So you're bringing up metrics, right? And I just gave you examples of what those metrics are. Is there anything that we're missing? Are you okay with those types of metrics? Do you want to think about it and get back to me about what these metrics are?
Do we have projects that we're currently lined up with the lobbyists that we want funding for outside of our attempt to get the town hall paid off, our debt?
So,
Yes, the last council prior to your coming on had multiple meetings where they schedule or set aside time to discuss projects and things they would like to see in the town, a priority list, I think we called it. They were given that list and they've been trying to align funding through state-funded programs that are out there to those projects.
So do we put a dollar amount to that list of
Yes,
priorities?
there is a dollar amount listed on that.
Okay, so then that would be the metric is as the year goes and progresses, identifying how much of that dollar amount we've achieved.
so can I ask for your help? When you talk about metrics, in addition to that, in addition to aligning what we're asking of them to our vision as a mayor and council, if you can come up with a document that discusses that and then the other metrics that I've mentioned, the reporting, the money brought in, the meetings that they've arranged, all of that stuff. I think when you bring up metrics, I think it's a valuable point. And I think we need to have some type of like an SOP or something in regards to those metrics, something on paper. That way we're not always talking about metrics.
So you said reportings that they provided, meetings arranged, what were the other items in your metric statement?
So the reports that they've provided, the meetings that they've scheduled, the calls that they've had with the mayor and council, presentations they've done to the town. These are just some off the top of my head. If you can think of anything else, I think it would really help to have that in a document somewhere so that we talk about metrics in regards to the lobbyists.
Sure, I'll look through the priority list that I guess the town provided them, and I'll look at the funding and I'll try to come up with the SOP so that they can have it. As far as reports for being provided, meetings be arranged, calls with the mayor and the council, I feel that's just good business. Those aren't metrics.
Those are metrics for me, so I would like to see it on that document because I think.
Sure, I can help find something. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so the next one is. Yeah. Sure.
Deborah Williams, Newark Road, 4200 block. I had been attending most of the work session meetings, so I missed a couple of them. And so, but I remember being at the meeting when we had one of the Greenwell representatives. And I do know that we talked about the one major concern was trying to get the building paid off. And so that was a no-go. That was a no bueno, if you will. I don't recall what other, I know that we talked about, we had a list of, there was a list that was stated in the work session about, they had this to me now, and I could be wrong, but it was a big pie in the sky. Oh, we can get you this and we can get you that. And what I'm hearing is correct, that we're not getting any funding at all that would be beneficial for the town this year after having paid money into them. And what we're doing now is establishing a relationship. So we're paying to establish a relationship with them. When they said, give it, we're going, we got, 90 days, we're doing, we got 90 days to get you this money. And they had all of these, yeah, we can do it ideas. And we come back with nothing for our town. And we appear to be in a deficit. That's not good business to me, but that's just me. And I know it's a lot that I don't know, but they just had this really big pie in the sky mindset. And they just had us gun ho thinking that we're going to get money for the town and we're going to, we're going to get this building paid off and we'll get you grant money for this, that, and the third. And we come out with a big poof. I'm concerned. That concerns me.
And you should be concerned.
Yeah.
So I think when Councilmember Brooks talks about metrics, that's what he's talking about, right? He's talking about what are we getting? What's the bang for our buck? After how much have we spent? $8,000, $9,000?
Yeah, that's not a little bit of
Okay.
money for a town that's,
No, it's not a little bit
Yeah.
of money. So I think what we were hoping for and what we were told was that there was some type of a program that would help relieve us of the debt for this town hall, right?
Mhm.
We weren't able to qualify for that program because the town hall was refinanced, right?
Right.
Okay. So they arranged a call with DHCD. And what we've learned from that conversation is that we're locked into a bond. And it's actually a Maryland bond, correct?
Yes.
And so we have to stay in that bond for the next 15 years.
Wasn't it up to them to know that? Or before they started lobbying for us for this? This is something that even, with Mr. Baton, they should have, this is something that you knew, I'm presuming you did because
Oh,
you've
I
been,
did.
right, I remember. So, but should they have not connected with him and they gotten together and found out about what we had already signed and was put in place before they went running off and making these promises that could not be fulfilled?
So thank you,
Yeah.
because you are paying attention.
I'm trying. I may
Yeah,
not
no,
have it
you're
all
paying-
right, but I'm
You are,
trying.
you are paying attention.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. So where we are with the lobbyist firm now is that they've set up all these different meetings for us and they have connected us to these different heads of programs that we are going to be applying for money from, okay? This sets us up hopefully in a better position than if we hadn't met with them at all. So it's still a work in progress, but I think that we do need to think about, do we want to continue with Greenville? Do we want to continue having a lobbyist? I think that's a valid point. I think that we don't have anything at the moment to show for it is spot on. You're absolutely right. Out of this specific legislative session, we haven't gotten anything. Does this mean that at the end of our contract with them that we will not have gotten anything at all? We may get some grant funding. But I can't tell you that right now. I think that we need to finish out our contract with them, obviously. But I do think we need to discuss whether we want to continue or not.
So I have an additional question. and please correct me if I'm wrong with this, is it that our town administrator or town and council are the ones who are supposed to apply for the grants? Is it our duty now? So in other words, they locate the grants and then we have to do the applying, or will they in turn do it?
So they have offered to assist us in writing grants post the session. So they recognize that they did not help us get a specific line item in the budget, and have offered to assist us. So as I mentioned a little bit ago, it's very unfortunate and annoying. This is also something that I think MML should fight for, and maybe, yeah, I think it should be a broader fight, is that once the budget passed from the state, they opened up through the Department of Housing and Community Development, the grant programs that we're eligible for, that the green team helps us by having the green team. All that effort we do helps us get these other grants, but they drop them all on us at once. So we're in the process of trying to write potentially 7 grants at one time. Basically, one's due at the end of the month and one's due at the end of June. And it's just impossible to do that. And they're all competitive. It's not that everyone's guaranteed anything. So they did offer to assist us with those. I've had meetings with them on that to identify certain funding sources, and aligning it to projects that we're trying to do. And then they've also offered to assist us in getting support letters from outside organizations to take some of that load off of having to put all the pieces together. So from designing the program, to getting the budgeting materials that you need for it, to getting support letters for it, to actually writing the grant, then submitting it. And then they've connected with, and this was helpful, they did connect us with some staff members at DHCD that aren't the normal people we would have been talking to if we would have just called in group form, that were assisting us in trying to identify pockets that would attach to things that we were trying to do.
Thank you for that, because I was going to ask that question. So now, is there a fee attached to that, all of this? For in terms of, because I know that grant writers,
Yeah,
they
just
cost
their,
money.
no, just their monthly fee. Like I said, I think they're doing it because they realize that because they couldn't provide us that service during the session and necessarily getting us into the budget, this is part of their monthly fee that we're paying them currently. And the current contract actually is up in June. So
We don't have much time.
yeah,
No, we don't.
but
However,
it does align with the grant cycle for the
Yeah.
state grants.
I understand
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I get that part.
and I also would say they actually did do something. So we're in so when I had mentioned, I forgot when it was, in January, February, that I went to go testify before the financial committee for the state of Maryland. There's a bill that was being pushed by Senator Augustine. So they were a part of that. They helped kind of develop this whole bill along with Senator Augustine. So the Gateway Arts Development Authority was established and it has been pushed through. So we are a part of that. So yes, we did get something from it. We didn't get the building paid off, but we did get added to this Gateway Arts Development Authority, where we are hoping we'll get money. And that money is to improve our business district. So I misspoke. We did get something from this. But you are spot on. Like, we need to decide, do we want to move forward with them or not? Their contract ends in June. I would be okay with not moving forward with them, or at least calling them in, having them explain to us what happened with the work that they've done with us, have them do a report out, and then we can decide whether we want to move forward with them or not. Yeah.
They drew an excellent picture. Sorry for not getting that done. But I just kept hearing them say, oh yeah, we got this and we got that. Oh, we can do this. You know, this is what we do. This is all we do. Oh, no.
No, thank you. I appreciate it. And you know, I love having people come to our town meetings. And I love hearing what you just had to say. You just got to the meat of the issue. So thank you. But I think that our priority should be knocking on doors and getting people to come to these meetings. That's where I think our efforts should lie. We should be at events. We should be at town events, talking to residents and finding out, okay, what are your priorities? What do you see that's not happening? Bring them to our town. Let's create a community. So thank you. I really appreciate that. Okay, what's next? The next one is. what was the last one?
Night
Oh,
out.
yeah. Oh, yeah, the National Night Out. So what does this all include with the National Night Out?
So mainly put on by the police department. Tracy go into more details on it, but a large majority of that is also recuperated by donations from people like Mr. Lusk, and I think we had a couple other donations last year. Do you remember who they were from?
More than usual donations last year from the church, a number of businesses along the Bladensburg Road, and it essentially doubled that. We're at about $1,000 here, but last year was about 2,000, 1,000 of which are maybe 1,200 donations. And National Night Out is an opportunity for police officers in the community to come together. It's like the 32nd or 33rd year. And it's usually a very well-attended function. And we try to get demonstrations from other police departments, from K9 or motorcycle or bicycle units or whatever we can get out to do that. It's been held in a variety of different combinations over the years, from us solo to joining with Cottage City to joining with the other port towns, and to varying degrees of success and at different locations. Our last two have been at Lara City Park and were very well attended. One was in combination with Cottage City, and one we were solo. And we've had some discussion with Cottage City of joining this year. And last I heard, it was going to the commissioners to decide if we wanted to be together again. But the benefit to us, or to me, to working it together, is that we can get more other agencies, to the larger agencies that might have a K9 or motorcycle unit, instead of trying to juggle between two places. They can just come here. So just better attendance.
Thank you.
Okay, office expenses. What does this include? Is all of this necessary?
Pretty much, maybe it could be tightened up a little bit, but it is mainly what it says, office expense, for, basically all of the staff, supplies. It also includes postage. We have postage machine, rental of the postage machine, cost for the postage, and the rest of it is, really, bunch of office related items that are needed, check stock. It's not, check stock isn't cheap. We actually, paid $1,000 for check stock, which will last about 2 years. And then we had the fraud issue and had to reorder check stock. So that was an unexpected cost. But just, it's not one individual item that I could say, here's what it is. It's, a large variety of supplies that are needed for the employees to do their job effectively.
Okay, and who's responsible for this line item in the budget to make sure?
The town administrator mainly, oversees the purchasing for the office staff. Island is the one that does most of the ordering.
Okay.
And, we do have, like an agreement for the postage machine, for copying on that. We do have a annual fee for a bulk mailing account. It's a few $100s there. If you want to comment on anything.
Yeah, the only thing I was going to comment on is I just requested from Dan a couple weeks ago, and he's just sent it over. And I've been going. In fact, I was going through it today in my spare time. But going through all the different lines that we're going through right now and looking at what's underneath each of them to see what potentially there could be to tighten up. So things like the postage machine, I don't know when the last time that was ever looked at of pricing. So I've been pricing out postage machines. We may see $200 at the end of the year, but it's $200. You know, things like purchasing paper in bulk. If there's a sale going on, you're lucky you hired a coupon king. I love my coupons. So I have updates from Staples, Office Depot account, our Home Depot account, and I check all the prices before I order anything, which reminds me I have to order paper tomorrow. So yeah, I've been looking through a lot of that, trying to find ways that we can cut things here and there, such as the postage machine, for instance, and various items.
Yeah, and it's, I don't expect us to get, you know, significant gains, but I know we had mentioned with the vision, effective governance and administration. So potentially having, you know, projects for the town staff to say, hey, you know, what are things that we have a little bit too much fat in to cut costs on? So, but it's still ensure quality though, not reduce that.
It's not this line, it's another question of yours down the line, but we did remove it from the, so things like the dog waste bags are kind of an extremely expensive item that we purchase. And if we bought them, so far from the analysis I saw, if we bought the year's supply up front in bulk, we could probably save almost half of what we've been spending. The other thought was seeing if we could buy them even higher and seeing what Cottage City or the other towns have with, if they use the same. There was a big push about scoop and pooping or whatever it's called at the same time. And so I think they all bought very similar or the same waste stations. So if there's a way to buy that in bulk throughout all of us and just having one group buy it and sell it off, then, you know, maybe that's a way to save some money too, but.
Yeah,
So
'cause
there's
that
small
was-
items in there. It's just, it is very I will say it's very difficult when looking at a general line that says something like office expense or maintenance expense, what's actually underneath. So.
Yeah, I know that was one of the things in the Portstown Quarterly meeting that a lot of the representatives were bringing up of ways for the towns to collaborate. So,
Mhm.
thank you.
All right. You didn't blink at me, you winked at me. Word correction, you did this to me.
Do you want me to wink? I can wink at you.
No, you did, you did.
There-
So
there
you
you
can
go.
wink, you can wink at me whenever you want.
All right. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, so the next one is office expenses, copier maintenance. What is the maintenance plan on the copier? How long? What does it include? How old is the machine?
So that's the next two line items. So the copier lease is a 4-year lease entered into in January of 2020. So it expired, lease is over at the end of 2023. It is a purchase lease, which means we own the machine at the end. So the current year's or the fiscal year 24 budget amount for the copier lease at 2,100, you can see is less than the prior years because it's only for a half a year. Going forward, you know, I think copiers have more than, 4-year useful life. So we usually hold on to them for a while. The maintenance costs end up ticking up on that because the older the machine, the higher the maintenance cost is. And the maintenance cost is based on number of copies. So it's X cents per copy. And I don't know what the exact rate is right now. In the past, maintenance costs they try to sell you are usually a fixed amount per month, which I don't like those because if there's a month that you hardly made any copies, you still pay the same amount. So our current agreement is based on actual copies. So there's a rate for black and white, there's a rate for color. So you see the amount fluctuates from month to month based on the usage. So that's those office expense, mayor and council. That is related to some events that the mayor and council attends. If we buy shirts and things like that for them to look uniform when they go to conventions and things like that. There's costs for employee appreciation events, flowers, cards that we send out to people for bereavement matters, maybe town residents. There were, I looked up county exec inaugural tickets for last year for the, when county exec got reelected. Office supplies for any of the council members that need them, PGCAMA meet and greet. And then there's some other items which I'm not sure if they belong there, but that's where they are. The Zoom subscriptions, the Microsoft 365 subscriptions, and the text messaging app that we have are all within there. You know, I think those are all things that we need. You know, whether we develop a new line item or something for that, it's not going to lower the cost, but they're included in there as well. And they run a few $100s a month. So, you know, that it is worth noting.
Thank you.
Okay, so the next one is Port Town projects. What have the specifics projects been that this item has funded in the past?
It's usually, in the past, it has funded the quarterly Port Towns legislative meeting where the Port Towns would invite all the legislators in and would pitch their programs that they would want them to support. We used to do it on an annual basis, and each of the Port Towns contributed equal amounts for the function. It usually included dinner. It's kind of like the PGCMA meetings, but it was specific for the Port Towns. Don't think it's been done since COVID in person, but you know, the amounts have been allocated for that. We also used to have the Port Towns Day, which is, you know, an event, you know, for the community. So those are the type of items that are included in there.
Okay, the next one is salary, general government, no 5% raise, $3,000 and 680 savings.
Yeah, you know, that's a discussion you as the council could have. I feel that, you know, the cost of living over the last year was 4.4%. So if you give the employees a 5% increase, you barely kept them up with inflation. You know, one of the other towns I work for is giving the employees 4.4% plus a merit increase, which ranges from 3 to 7.5 additional percent. You know, we have always tended in the past just to give a flat percentage, which, you know, really in my mind is equivalent to a cost of living. So, you know, I would encourage you not to take that away because that is really just based on cost of living. We have had meetings with some employees in the last couple of weeks, include our transit employees and public works employees are actually asking for, you know, additional pay because they feel that they've earned it and that comparable jobs in other jurisdictions are paying more. So, you know, 5% is, you know, it's a lot of money because salaries is one of our largest expenses. Salary and benefits count for probably 65% of our total budget. So, you know, 5% seems like a lot, but when you look at, you know, cost of living and trying to reward employees for doing a good job, I think, you know, I think it's low.
Yeah, I agree with the base. However, to your point of other towns having a merit based off an evaluation, I feel that that would be, you know, something that we could set in stone. So going forward, based off your evaluation, you have a base of X, and then based off how you perform, whoever you're reporting to, you have an additional Y added to that.
Right, but if you just want to keep them current with, you know, their, you know, with inflation, you're at 4.4%. So then the issue is how can you give them the 4.4% plus a merit increase? That ends up coming more than 5%.
And it was 4.4 recently, but historically it's around 3, correct? Inflation is typically around 3.
Yeah, it's been extremely high over the last couple years.
Correct,
Yeah.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. Okay, thank you.
Okay, salary for the mayor and council, is this too high? What is typical for other towns?
I think this is in line with towns, our size. Some towns, are higher, some are lower. We're $500 a month for a council member and, or 6,000 a year, which I think is 500 a month, and then mayor's 10,000 a year. So, I think I would not in any way say that is a, exorbitant amount based on my experience.
Okay, I was just curious. I didn't know what is, sometimes it's hard to find that information out there on the web, so.
Yeah, it's I'd say it's probably in the low to mid end of someone our size.
Thank you.
Okay, next one is special events. This belongs with recreation.
This does not belong, well, it's
I guess the question is, what is it? And then if, depending on what it is.
I believe the employee, holiday party comes out of there. What was the last event that we did? The senior event, I think, is after that, right?
Like a
So they're
breakfast?
separate.
like
Correct.
breakfast?
Senior event is after.
Yeah, senior events are a separate one. Let's see if I have anything on that.
And the reason I asked 2021, there's nothing in there. 2022 is 54. 2023 is 2,646. So it just seemed like a big jump from the years. Obviously, COVID affected some of it.
Yep, so, well, actually, for this year, we spent $2,645, which includes the Hispanic Heritage Breakfast and Salsa Party food, other costs associated with that. We bought a memorial wreath for, I believe, is that Veterans Day? Black History Month celebration, event supplies. I think a lot of this light towers for the ball field parking lot. Was that for the Heritage Breakfast or fireworks? Okay, so fireworks, salsa, DJ for the salsa party, wreath. So, individual events that aren't really supported by the rec council, I guess would maybe be a general category.
Okay, so the next one is training.
Yep, so
So I know in the work session, we had talked about potentially utilizing LinkedIn Learning for some of the training.
Yeah, so it says training, recommend getting a library account and sharing with, and starting with this first.
Yeah, I had passed on information that I had talked about. There's a training tool called STARS 12 that we've used in the past that I think was $499 for the Premier plan. And it allows all your employees to unlimited use of the different training classes that they have, and it runs everything from administrative to supervisory and a lot of other things. So I forward that on to the town administrator, and I think it's something we should pursue again.
Correct.
Okay, next
I-
one is.
I would just add though, also on that note, that there's going to be a lot of items that staff would attend for training that would not be LinkedIn Learning or even what he's talking about. It would be very specific to the job. I know in the past, Public Works has done trainings that's very specific to municipal public works. I think I may have even put this conference that I'm going to this week as part of training, as opposed to the dues and subscriptions, because it's not that, it's a training.
So based on developmental for the specific path that they're down.
Yeah,
Okay.
and for the content that's specific, it's not just the go, it's because of what they're offering.
Okay.
Okay, next one is senior van expenditures. What are the typical expenses?
Gas, cell phone, and maintenance. And majority of those are paid for by Bladensburg because they have the higher use of the van. So a lot of those are offset on the revenue side. An account 4151. So we charge Bladensburg share of the costs associated with the operation of the van, plus a 10% administrative fee on whatever their costs are.
Okay, so the next one is code enforcement expenses. What are these expenses? Why so high?
So specifically, it goes from 2021 of 839, 2022 of 585, and then 2024 budget for 3,000.
Comcast.
Comcast just came on recently. Yeah. In the past, it's mainly been, all the fees were passed on by Cottage City when we had the joint officer. Let me see if I can bring that up.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Because we had a joint code enforcement officer and now we
The only
have.
thing I have for fiscal year, current fiscal year so far are some shirts that we just spent for the new code officer for $85. In the past, when we had our own, it's cell phone costs, gas for the vehicle. So those $800 charges were probably associated with that. If we need to buy receipt books or notices to post on properties, things like that.
Would you estimate that to be 3,000 worth?
Is that what I got in this year's budget?
Yep.
Chief and the town administrator both talking about the software that we purchased last year. Maybe included in there as well. I'd have to. Yeah. I could look at that and see, if I've got it itemized somewhere. I don't want to hold up time right now.
Okay. So the next one is CDBG-PY 43 street work ad tag. And it says this should be ARPA funded.
It's been revised to read Chesapeake Bay Trust Grant. So that's the ad tech fees associated with the Chesapeake Bay Trust Grant. So they're offset by grant funds.
Okay, perfect.
The next one is the gasoline town vehicles. Recommend program to track gas mileage per week and figure out ways to reduce.
It's not that hard. I mean, we're with WEX, which is a company that is accepted at any gas pump. So for people like the police officers who are traveling and have take-home vehicles, they're encouraged to fill up where the gas is the cheapest because the WEX card is accepted at any gas station. For public works, they're mainly using the local station because they don't do as much out of town travel. I don't see that as being something that we could control much more than what we are.
And WEX is a fleet management, so it has all the mileage in it and the amount of gasoline purchased and tracks all that.
Okay. so
Thank you
then
for that clarification.
The next one is maintenance expenses. What is included in this line item? What is the most costly item, or are there many? What does our equipment maintenance schedule look like?
The 5740 maintenance is any supplies and materials that Public Works needs to do their jobs as it relates to out in the community. Under building maintenance, there's a separate line item for maintenance costs associated with inside the building. So, everything that you see in that account is related to everything in the year that Public Works needs in order to do their jobs and functions out in the community.
And we have a documented schedule of certain preventive maintenance that we're doing on all the equipment that the Public Works uses.
It's not really maintenance per equipment.
Okay.
It's cost for supplies and material to do their job.
Supplies.
So I mean, a saw blade, bolts, sanding blocks, weed killer, tool holder, brakes for, no, that's mulch, plants, trash bags, bee spray, bungee cord, a tarp, work gloves, cold patch for asphalt, weed eater, blower, backpack, dog waste bags, yellow traffic paint, work shirts, tie down ratchet, more paint, a spray gun, brooms, buckets, paint thinners,
A little bit of
Skechers,
everything.
work boots.
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
So
A little bit of everything.
basically anything they need to do their job. And I said, that's for outside work. For inside work, there's a separate line item for building maintenance costs.
And just a note on that with specifically the trash bags, realizing that we have, I believe it's 15 trash cans in the town that take 55-gallon drum bags that are changed at least, all bags are changed at least once a week. Most bags are changed almost every other day. So we're going through somewhere between, my estimate was 3,000 to 5,000 bags a year. So one of the reasons I moved to Cintas, other than professionalizing the cleaning within town hall, is that their trash bags, 55-gallon trash bags, were astronomically cheaper. They were probably about a quarter of the cost that we were paying from Home Depot.
Okay, next one is street lighting. Assume 18 lights at 2,000, 5,000 per smart light.
Not sure what that means. This is the energy cost for all of our streetlights.
Okay, okay.
So it's
Scratch that question then. Yeah, scratch that question.
Okay, next one is street and sidewalk repairs. This may be an item for ARPA.
I don't think we have anything, do we? There's nothing currently allocated for street work because of that. There's nothing in the proposed for fiscal year 24 for
Correct.
street work, but we do have a large item,
In-
400,000 or so under ARPA for
Correct.
that.
All right,
Yeah.
just want to make sure.
Yep.
Next one is vehicle maintenance. How do we improve this?
I have a recommendation, replace the vehicles.
Tracy would agree with that.
Yeah,
I mean, we have a pickup truck that goes to 2004. We have a Crown Victoria that's from 2001. It's 2006, I'm sorry. Not that it's related to that line, but one of the buses in the back has $19,000 in potential maintenance that's needed to even make it operable again. So it is being just sidelined. It's a county bus. We don't even own it. So yes, I've applied for grants to replace 4 of them with hybrid and electric vehicles. It's just a matter of waiting for that. And that would replace the 2 Impalas and the 1 police car and 1 pickup truck for the Public Works.
so we brought this up. Actually, Greg, you brought it up a couple of different times already. So just putting it out there. We've talked about this and we've talked about the need for new cars. Electric, how can we lower this expense?
We currently have a purchase agreement with a company. This past year, it was probably higher. I'm not looking at it, but let me pull it up real quick here. Safety. Is it after
I think it's 26,204. Was the value for 2023? Line item 5880 or 5860, sorry. It's under the section 4
Oh,
community
there
center
we
town
go.
hall.
Yeah, if you can see in fiscal year 21, it was lower. Fiscal year 26, the maintenance, or not the maintenance, the purchase agreement for electricity had an escalation clause in it that was allowed other ancillary charges to be included in it, but that has now been taken care of. So it should be pretty consistent over the next 3 years, which is what the current agreement, I think it's 3-year agreement. So that should be under control at this point.
And it should also be noted that, I don't remember which year it is, but the town had the grant for the lighting and replaced and made the lighting more efficient.
Okay, gas, heat, how can we lower this? Are there credits available for efficiency?
Not that I'm aware of.
I've been exploring grants to try to alleviate some of that. For instance, the stove. If we move to a convection oven or an electric oven instead of a gas oven, then for rentals, we wouldn't have that. But to purchase a new commercial stove is not cheap. So I've been looking for energy efficiency grants that we could potentially use in that scenario. Outside of that, it's just the town's heating and the hot water tank.
Insurance on the building. When was the last time this was out for bid?
We don't bid out our insurance because we're part of the local government investment trust, which is a self-insurance pool that all of the municipal governments in the state are part of. So, their rates are very competitive and their cover, they're probably cheaper than the market, and their coverage is greater because they look out for the municipalities. So whenever you have a claim, you're never getting pushed back. They're always working for us because we own them basically. So everything except workers' comp is through them. So our property insurance, our auto insurance, our public officials liability, police liability, and umbrella coverages are all with Legit.
Okay, maintenance CMCC, is this a contract now?
Maintenance, no, that's the other line item I was talking about. So anything that we don't have a service contract for on this building gets paid for out of that maintenance, CMCC's Colmar Manor Community Center. So everything else gets paid out of there. We do have service contracts for things like HVAC, fire extinguishers, sprinkler systems, elevator, those types of things. And they are paid out under the service contract line item that's under there. But under the maintenance one, I could go down the list again and give you some examples of what's in there, but Greg talked about it, a lot of it.
Yeah, you don't have to go. Yeah, yeah, it's been covered. Thank you. So we can skip the service contracts.
So, okay, background exams and training. Why did this increase again?
I think we talked about that last week under, I'll let the chief give the technical name, but under the police reform laws, we had to do additional training for the officers, have to go through additional medical exams. Is that right?
Not a psychological evaluation, but it's a psychological screening. That's the word they want to use. Psychological screening biannually. However, our first exposure to this has to be completed by next July 1st, and then it'll be biannual after that.
Thank you.
Essentially double our background expenses.
Thank you. Yeah, I was looking at my notes and as I was writing, I missed that item. So thank you for clarifying.
Okay, communications, what is this used for?
Is it like phones? Is it,
It's the internet access for the police cruisers. They have mobile data terminals in their car and also a duty cell phone. There's one duty cell phone. I think chief has a phone. So there's two phones and then the mobile hotspots so that they could have, do their work and run reports and things like that in their car. So each vehicle has, a internet access.
Okay, next one is gasoline and police. How do we lower this? Potential pilot program to walk the town 1 day per week or bike, increase visibility and cut down on gas.
So as I noted, I applied for the grant that would replace a couple of the vehicles. So hybrid is probably our best option. Because we have two Impalas, one that's well over a decade. They're both over a decade old, so.
Doesn't Corporal Chavez bike like when it gets warmer?
Okay, yes, he will be starting again, and his vehicle is a hybrid, actually.
So-
Administrator and I were just speaking today about doing a comparison, what we're saving on that car.
Okay, all right. The next one is body cameras. What grants can we apply for to cover this?
Those, the body cameras, actually, those, the ones that we have, were obtained by a grant through our insurance company, Legit. They paid for the initial cost. We pay about $1,100 a year as maintenance. And that's continuing. Body cameras become mandated, I think next year or the year after, and I understand that the state is going to offer some grants for body cameras, so we may be able to obtain new ones at that time. But the current ones were obtained through a grant.
Okay,
okay, so in the future, we might be able to find some grants for that. Thank you.
Yes.
okay, so the next one is operating expenses police. What is this used for?
So that again is 2021, it was 467. 2022, it jumped up to 884. 2023, it was estimated for 1,000. 2024, 1,000. So just trying to understand the jumps.
Is it because we have more police officers now, chief?
Yes, no, it's, usually that's kind of the catch-all things that don't fit into other categories that don't there.
Yeah, I mean, fiscal year 23, it's that program that you get to Department of Public Safety and Corrections, that monthly fee that we pay. I mean, that's the only thing that's been charged so far this year there. But again, that's the, any other supplies they need for police that aren't in any of the other accounts. So
Okay,
it
next
could
one is,
fluctuate year to year.
next one is police equipment. What grants can we apply for to cover this?
Will when we can or when it's available. And I think the most recent expense in that is scanner and some labels required to use the county's reporting system for the property aspect of that.
Okay, the next one is red light camera citations. This device doesn't seem to be producing the same amount of citations as below. Is it still valuable? Didn't we talk about this at the last work session?
This is just a function of the revenues, so it's a percentage of the revenues. So if the revenues go down, this will go down proportionally. So it's just you know, so we may not have all those expenses if our violations continue to decrease. But hopefully with the speed cameras, that, you know, both the revenue and the expenditure line items will increase.
Oh, here we go. I think it's, again, vehicle maintenance. How do we lower this? Potential pilot program to walk the town 1 day per week or bike, increase visibility and cut down on gas.
Same,
Same as before. Okay.
yeah, new vehicles.
Green team, dumpsters are in ARPA. Meals should not be that high. So I think we discussed this at our last work session. So if you're looking at meals, I don't think this is just meals. So,
And agree with the dumpsters, that we do have dumpsters, at least for
So,
budgeted for a program for the next couple of years, the dumpsters, and it's your prerogative on the funding for the other stuff, so.
Yeah, so the meals were quoted at $70 for a frequency of 12 meetings, Colmar Manor and 2 with Cottage City joint. So that just seemed a little high, 840 for the year. And then to your point, Greg, yeah, in the ARPA, I saw a line item for dumpsters. So just figuring out ways to reduce certain things that may be dipping.
The green team actually, I believe, are the only ones that gave us a budget list that you had read, which included door hangers, tree planting, meals, and cleanup.
Yeah, Garden Club sent one as well.
Did as well.
Right. Yes.
okay. Stormwater projects, ARPA, need assessments completed. I don't know what that means.
Oh, I put a certain amount in there for stormwater projects because I wasn't aware that we had any planned, because there's nothing in the budget for it.
These are all under ARPA. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's all under
I'm not
ARPA.
sure if there was a specific.
No, it was
amount.
just, yeah, I was going through the ARPA
Yeah.
items and we have nothing for stormwater projects. And I recall on multiple occasions, residents talking about issues regarding stormwater management. So just making sure we didn't take her off the ball with that one.
Oh, so there's only 5 items listed in fiscal year 24 budget for ARPA. And, you know, that I think Greg and I are going to need to go through. So what I showed is that everything's going to be expended by the end of 23, with the exception of items we know we're going to fund with future revenue. And that was just because we've allocated money for specific projects. And, you know, I wanted to show that, you know, outside of those, what money was available. So there's only, in addition to the projects that are designated, if you look at account 6376 for fiscal year 24, there's $61,659 that's unallocated, which is really town administrator costs and consultant for half of 2025.
Oh, so that's.
And everything else is being allocated. Technically, it's not going to be spent, and I'm going to go through with Greg before the next meeting, and we'll break this out to show in fiscal year 24 what we think is not going to be spent in 23 and needs to be broken out and budgeted in 24 so that we don't have to. But in the end, all of the ARPA funds as shown are going to be spent for these projects unless you designate them for something else by council action.
Okay, so just wait until you and Greg. work
Yeah, so
together.
you'll see numbers in that fiscal year 2024 column, you know, for the next meeting.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Community garden, expansion of tree planting program for residents.
I think all the rest of the items for ARPA, we need to wait until Dan Baden and Greg are able to have a
Yeah,
meeting.
basically, the discussion on ARPA should be, are these the programs you want to continue to fund, or do you want to do something else? Or do you want to reallocate the funding that's there? And I don't think it needs to be done before the budget adoption. So again, that could be a whole nother discussion, but I do feel that we need to get moving on the ARPA projects such as street work and stormwater management, some of the larger ones that we haven't done yet, because the funds have to be obligated by the end of December 2024. And then we got another 2 years to spend. So the big thing is getting them obligated, which means under contract. But again, I don't think I think just allocating what Greg and I will do into the fiscal year 23-24 columns is all that would be needed at this point. We have more detailed discussion after next year, after the fiscal year ends.
Thank you.
Any other comments on the budget? Any other questions on the budget? Yeah. No, we can address it now. So 5198, Literacy Park, CPMP. So what is that?
So that's the open space grant that was received to do the design work. So earlier tonight, the mayor mentioned that part of her idea of doing the map downstairs was that we have a variety of projects we need public input for. And we contracted, the council approved a contract with the Neighborhood Design Center to help us with that project. And so they're just launching now. They just launched at the health fair, a survey for that to start that whole process of, for the public division, what they want to see Literacy Park look like.
Miss Williams, you should run for council. I'm very impressed.
Ms. Williams is a great resident.
No other questions on the budget? What are the next steps now?
Well, I mean, if you're happy with, we didn't make any other changes. So at this point, this will be the draft that is presented at the public hearing on the 6th. And then you all should decide on the 6th if there's any other changes you want made. And if not, then we would put it forth for adoption on the 13th.
So yeah, in the document, I adjusted some of the numbers and put it in the column budget FY24 KGB. So definitely, I'd say a week if you all have time to review it and say, yay or nay to any of those suggestions.
So I'm sorry, take a look at the Excel sheet that you sent.
Correct.
And then within a week, see if anyone has any other comments or suggestions.
Correct. Unless, Dan Baden, have you received any other feedback since our last meeting?
No.
Okay.
So let me understand the white column that's in next to the yellow, in between the yellow and the blue. Is that what we're talking about?
Correct. The column that heads with budget FY24 KGB.
Okay, so are you asking proposed changes for each of those? So you're proposing a lot of changes in dollar amounts. Is that correct?
Correct. Some of them I've left the same exact, as they were before with your revised.
Well, I see quite a few as I go down, to what you're proposing. So
I tell you what, is it better if I do a Word document that has the revised my comments to make it a little easier to digest?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you've changed your thinking based on some of the discussion we had and gaining more information. So I think it would be good if you designate each individual line item and what change you're proposing at this point.
I can
for
do that.
those line items. Because I'm hoping it's not all the ones you have here, because we're going to need another meeting before the 6th, if that's the case.
No, this is provided more detail. So, yeah.
Okay.
Could I also make another suggestion, recommendation, or request, I guess, is you may want to pick your biggest items too, just because I noticed, just quickly glancing down, like payroll taxes, senior van is like a reduction of $46. I don't know that we can reduce the taxes that we owe because the salary was the same.
So on the salary, I was suggesting do a 3% base and then a merit. So that was the only reason why that adjusted. But yeah, it's not that much.
Well, I mean, maybe we could have, that sounds like a good discussion to have now instead of waiting to discuss it later. You know, where do you all feel you want to be on salaries? I mean, are you putting a proposal out there, council member, to lower the increase from 5% to 3%?
I feel some type of evaluation should be factored in the increase.
We do evaluations, annual evaluations, and Greg and I actually just talked about that. You know, what seems to happen is that they kind of get put off, and then we do them in like December and then give a retroactive increase back to the beginning of the fiscal year. So we had talked about it actually last Wednesday, making sure those evaluations are done so that on July 1st, the employees could get any allocated raises at that point instead of them feeling like we forgot about them again.
Correct.
But they are done based on evaluations. Now, we don't have a scale as to, you know, do you get 5% or 3% or 2% based on your evaluation? If you get above average evaluation, we've usually just given, you know, across the board increases. On occasion, we've done that so that it was more on a sliding scale.
Correct.
So
And-
we've done it both ways.
So in the salary provided, there are some staff members that received a 5%, and then there's one individual that received a 10%, but that was they're funded through ARPA.
Correct.
So was that the only reason why they received a higher?
Well, I'm actually one who put those in there, and I feel that the town administrator is underpaid for his position. I think we're very fortunate to have someone of his caliber working for us, and I propose the 10% increase in there. One, because it is paid out of ARPA, and we do need to spend it, and you know, he's done a lot as far as the grants and getting the town a lot of money. So, you know, I think you know, he's due that. But, you know, as far as performance discussions and things like that, it should be done in a closed session.
That's what, yeah,
To
that's what I agree.
discuss, you know, the specifics when it comes around. But for now, that is what's proposed in ARPA. For the town administrator, all the other positions are proposed at 5%.
And for ARPA, we'll just want to make sure that long-term, because the ARPA funds will run out, that we can sustain that. So definitely making sure we have that.
Right,
to
and I
consider as
think
well.
the big discussion is, you know, we know we're funding the town administrator position from ARPA, and, you know, we don't know what's going to happen when ARPA goes away. We're hoping, you know, some of the things we talked about, lobbyists and maybe getting the circuit rider program changed. You know, maybe the speed camera revenue comes in and, you know, we have a windfall, you know, and, you know, that could be a possible avenue. You know, so hopefully we'll have the current administrator for, you know, at least another year and a half, 2 years, and we can work through those problems. He
Great.
doesn't find another town that'll pay him more.
Yeah, I think
So-
we all agree that we enjoy and we appreciate what Greg has been able to do within the small amount of time.
To add to the conversation, and I know this is going to sound like I'm advocating for myself, I'm not, I'm just tied into the group of employees. But on the discussion about the 5% and relevant to an evaluation and whatnot, for the most part, I mean, we haven't done a full salary study, but from feedback from employees and the fact that we had quite a high turnover in the last couple of years, we're underpaying the employees, public employees. So whether they did a good job or not, they literally can go to a town next door and get paid more. And for the same job, for less of a job, for a different job. So that has been something that has been of concern, is just retaining employees. And so, you know, a good example is, well, never mind.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
can't
can,
talk about
yeah, we'll do,
individuals.
No, it wasn't
yeah,
gonna be that,
for
but-
Dan Beatty, yes. Thank you.
So this is just to say, again, because I've said it before, we need to have discussions about how we can generate more revenue for the town. So I've brought some ideas. I'd like to hear your ideas as council. What ideas do you have? And we've actually already implemented some of my ideas. So we're raising, or we raised the rental rates. Not that that's a lot of money, but that's something. Greg has been talking to parking meter companies, because that's another idea that I had. I'd like to know what your ideas are to generate revenue for the town. Sure.
A lot of people would be against this, but we used to be an entertainment district. And I believe that there's still money inside of entertainment. And I believe Larcy Park is a front, like a space right there where people could use it for performances. People rent out spaces is $500,000 all the time for performances. Added with ticket sales, that's a good way for us to make money.
To add to that, that there is a, what is it called? An entertainment tax, I believe it is. We don't get it. So I know, for instance, Edmonston mentioned in talking to the town administrator, the go-kart, so they were going to shut it down. And the guy that bought it, but then realized how much money he was bringing in. And the town of Edmonston receives tens of thousands of dollars in taxes off of their go-karts, just from the entertainment tax.
So that's what I'm like, thank you. That is an idea. So when I had my idea of having a train behind the town hall, that would have been a money generator. We can't do it, but I think, like, yes, things like that, that's what we need. So I appreciate that idea.
So another way to do it is, I think it starts with the foundation. So continuing to find ways to clean up our roads, fix our sidewalks, do productive stormwater management, even participate with neighboring towns to clean up the Anacostia. I feel that a lot of cities benefit from waterways, from, you know, just people loving to be around it. So maybe the trail that we have near the Anacostia, we have a monthly food truck that people can go get food at these, you know, food trucks and enjoy just looking at the water and being that close to it, or things like that. And then maybe you clean it up to a certain point, you have more people kayaking, more people doing different types of events. But it starts with the foundation of, you know, do we have the best clean of streets, and do we have the proper sidewalks, and are we doing the basic blocking and tackling to say businesses, hey, we're doing our stuff well, come, we want your business. So that's another option.
I think, I don't think, well, I'll mention it here. I mentioned it in the work session. So we have a business district. So I think with the business district, we need to talk to the owners of the business district to improve our business district, right? But also the port towns, Colmar Manor, Cottage City, Edmonston, Bladensburg. We're trying to think of ways to work together so that we can attract more business, more visitors, more money into our communities. And so we're looking at creating a brand or reinvigorating the current brand, and thinking creatively about how do we make ourselves stand out. We're the gateway into Prince George's County. There's no reason why we should be looking the way that we're looking now, which I don't think is horrible, but it needs improvement. So I think networking, attending meetings, meeting other people, bringing residents to our town meetings, being at town events, speaking to residents, that's the strategy. So, okay. So the next, oh, here we go. All right, new business. So if we don't have any other discussions on the budget, let's go on to new business. So the ad tech and Newark engineering proposal.
Yes, so I've had this for a little bit. I had to get clarification from the Chesapeake Bay Trust. So just a quick reminder, I brought this up. I think I brought this up in an email only, not at another session, but the Chesapeake Bay Trust grant that we have for the 43rd and Newark project is only for design work. We had hoped that we could use it for construction. They do not want to do that. So they asked us to find the next closest area connected to that project that we can attach more permeable pavers to for design. And so we moved down the street some, and ad tech, as they looked through our Green Street, identified the 41st and Newark, 41st Avenue in Newark was not actually supposed to be a permeable, full permeable intersection. It was just crosswalks, and it was like a light permeable, just kind of like bricks. And so what they're proposing for that design is to incorporate from our traffic study the idea of a small roundabout with raised crosswalks to assist with pedestrian traffic, which was the recommendation, to then do a permeable paver intersection, which would be an additional permeable intersection that wasn't part of the initial concept plan. So this is to, Chesapeake Bay is okay with that. And yeah, so this would be to design that second intersection in conjunction with the design work that's kind of coming to the end right now at 43rd and Newark. So in order to move forward with that, to use the rest of that grant, it's an opportunity for us to extend the Green Street. This was AdTech's proposal to utilize the rest of that funding.
Well, personally, I have more of an engineer question, but so essentially, we already have the money that's allocated. It's just being okay.
Yes, so if you decided you did not want to do this, we basically, our alternatives are, we can ask AdTech to come up with a different idea of how to use that money, or we can we could just give it back to Chesapeake Bay. The only hang up that I have, and they have not said this directly, but the potential hang up we could have is that March 31st was the deadline to submit your final report to CBT regarding this grant. But because we chose the engineering firm so late in the year and the work they've done, and now their engineering's done and it's with DPI at the county then required a, what do they call it? That's what I'm looking for. No, a review, basically a reviewer to look at it, which is not a kiss of death, but it's a kiss of slow down.
Peer review.
Peer review, that's it. Which essentially they put out into the engineering sphere, and then these engineers, when they have time, are paid to do this, but it's not their primary project. So we did get a relaxation of rules, I guess. We asked for them to do it internally. So someone at DPI is going to do the peer review, which can be done on some smaller basic projects. And so they did agree to do that, but it still delays it because it's now stuck with DPI until they. So the point being is, we cannot apply necessarily for another design grant through CBT to do other portions of the project until this is done. And I fear that it may hold up. So I applied for the Chesapeake Bay Trust grant to build the 43rd in Newark, to actually do the construction, even though our plans weren't done. But knowing that the plans were through the review process and they're done, they're just not 100% approved. And so they have asked questions about that. CBT has, which is a good sign that they're interested in funding it. The problem is I'm fearful that they may not fund it until we spend this grant or give it back. But giving back the money also isn't necessarily a good look.
Correct. So the ask is to create a motion to approve the 17,800 for the design of the 41st in Newark. Okay, all right. So not seeing any questions. Well, are there any questions from the council or the mayor?
I will add one little caveat in case anyone's concerned about the mini roundabout. This is a mini roundabout. We're not talking a huge one because not a lot of space. It also is for the engineering of it. They don't know if it can happen or not. So it's a recommendation from the traffic people, doesn't necessarily mean it's engineering possibility. So they will examine that in this. So it may just be another permeable intersection, but at least raised crosswalks. So there will be some pedestrian safety built in.
Correct, because this is just the design.
Correct.
Correct. Okay, yeah. So Councilmember Brooks, Ward 3 approves the allocation of 17,800 for the ad tech design work.
Councilmember Hardy, I'll second that motion.
Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay. So the next new business item is our summer holiday schedule. So we have ML is taking place. Okay, so June 25th to the 28th is when MML happens. Yeah. So we have a work session on June 6th. Then we have a public meeting on June 13th. 4th of July is on a Tuesday, which is when we would have a work session. So do we need to change the date on that? So I would recommend that we change the date to like the 5th or the 6th of July for our work session. Is there a preference for anyone, either Wednesday or Thursday?
I'm not available Thursday, but you can go with me with that one.
Okay, so is everyone okay with Wednesday, July 5th?
That works.
I'm sorry, what?
July 5th works.
Okay,
I may be joining remotely.
okay. So we're changing our July 4th meeting to July 5th, which is a work session. And then we'll keep July 11th for our town meeting. And then the question is, do we want to not have any meetings in August? I forgot what we did last year.
Usually the first Tuesday in August is National Night Out. And so we only have one meeting in August, I believe, which is the second.
Do you just want to recess August? I would agree to recess for the month of August. I'm going on vacation,
Well, there you go.
but not in August. I don't know. Anyways, so I guess, no, I'm not going to Outer Banks this year. My vacation is going to be in Ocean City. So I'm staying after the MML conference for extra couple of days. So I guess I'd like to request a motion to recess for the month of August.
Councilmember Harding, I'll make the motion to recess for the month of August.
Councilmember Brooks, Ward 3, seconds that motion.
Any discussion? Okay, so all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Okay, so we're gonna recess for August. And then I'd like to request a closed session for an employee issue, a personnel issue.
Councilmember Hobbs would make that motion to go into a closed session to discuss a personnel issue.
Councilmember Harden, I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So thank you, everyone who came out tonight. Thank you, everyone who's on Zoom. Happy Mother's Day. Don't forget to come on Mother's Day. And then don't forget to get an ice cream cone on Monday.